I'll call the September 26th meeting of the Ashland Board of Health to order. The time is 7:04. The meeting is being recorded by WACA-TV, and it's also being audio recorded by Laura. And when Steve comes back, he will also be recording, he informed me. The matters listed on the agenda are anticipated to be discussed. Other items not listed may only be discussed to the extent permissible by law. There shall be no interruptions, and speakers must go through the chair.
Madam Chair, Mary, could you explain this point of order for the public, the Health Agent Director's Report? I see here 128 Main Street, 0 Tri-Street. I don't see the bus lot situation, and I see the landfill routine testing, landfill update. Are those to be testimonies, especially these three, the landfill, the Main Street, and the 0 Tri-Street? Are those going to be with the developers or the individuals involved there? Will they be giving testimony for the board to review those projects?
Madam Chair, would you like me to
Yes, please,
provide
Mark.
what my report is? And through the past years, including the past 3 years, I've updated the board on matters that come before me, so the board's involved, so I'll be doing that tonight as well.
The Madam Chair, those are typically things that would require the board's decision-making. So will there be an opportunity for the board to make decisions on the landfill, on 128 Main Street, and on 0 Tri-Street?
We will discuss that when we get to it, because I don't know the extent of what Mark has in his report. So when he gets to the report, then we may decide what we're going to do. First thing on the agenda tonight is citizens' participation. Come on, Mark, we're waiting for you.
I thank you for waiting. I'll be somewhat quick. I did the replay of the board meeting of last week was replayed, and considering the room size, considering the microphone and the acoustics and stuff like that, it came out good. And I would like to say, I'd like to ask if it's on the agenda, and when can it be going on? Is policies, procedures, guidelines on the agenda tonight?
Yes, it is.
And would that be going?
The review of the policies and procedures.
Is that middle or near end?
It was on here.
It's number 11
Oh, I'm
on
sorry.
ours. Number 11.
Oh, yeah.
You can take that if you want more. Okay?
Yeah, that's for clarification with town council, who is here.
Okay.
I have extra agendas if anyone needs it.
Okay. And the only reason why I'm asking that because of past histories of conduct, it might be good to get that up and away first and do the others. Because of time, you may have enough time, you may not. Depends on the verbiage of each article that is on this agenda. That's all.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Anyone else for citizens' participation? Seeing no others, we're a little early, but Mr. Wilson, the gentleman
Yeah, I
from
think
Wilson Circle is here.
If the board's ready, Michael Kane, representing, he's the owner of Lot 3,
Yeah.
Wilson Circle, can present. The plan is over to your left, Madam
Yeah.
Chair, and to the right of some.
Plus, we haven't.
And plus you have the smaller plan, which
Mm-hmm.
has been highlighted to show where the irrigation well is located.
Yes,
Are we allowed to begin earlier than what stated time is? Will
Yep.
that be an
It's-
issue?
it's
or
not
will
a
that be an
hearing.
issue?
it's not a hearing,
It's an
so it can be.
appointment.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Looking to cause
Yeah,
trouble.
I know.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Michael Kane. I own MG Kane Properties, and I submitted an application for an irrigation well right around August 1st to the Board of Health, and I've spread the plan out in front of you there. It's the last lot in the 6-lot subdivision up on Wilson Circle off Oregon Road near the Oregon Club. We've put in 5 irrigation wells to date. This is the 6th and last one up there, and it meets all with the local and state town regulations. Requires to be at least 125 feet from the septic. I think we have 132 feet currently. So it pretty straightforward application for an irrigation well. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Where is
Madam
the-
Chair, if I may,
Where's the
if you
septic
look at the
tank?
locus, the septic tank.
I'm just wondering where it is.
Septic system and the septic tank are together, so there's your septic tank there, there's the house, septic
Okay.
tank, and then the leaching field. Wells over this way, that's really scaled down, but that is, from the plan, you can see it a little better, it's 132 feet.
No, I got it there.
So.
It's a little easier.
Oh, much better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah.
And Madam Chair, if I may, based on the display, the demonstration provided on the plan, the engineered plan, I would recommend to the board that this be approved, conditional to it not being released for the final permit until Conservation Commission has also approved the same plan.
And what about garbage grinder on the septic?
Well, the septic plan would be my review and approval. This is just for the irrigation well.
Okay.
And in all respects, that.
Mark, I didn't hear you very well. Could you repeat what you said, if you don't mind, please?
Sure, I'd be
Sorry.
glad. I
I'm sorry.
said, Madam Chair, if I may, I'd like to recommend to the board that this plan be approved for the irrigation well as presented by the engineered plan. I may have worded it a little different. And that also the approval I would recommend be conditional to the permit not being released until the Conservation Commission has reviewed and approved the same plan.
I'll make a motion that we approve as submitted.
I come up with a question here. Now, what happens if the Conservation Commission doesn't agree with the plan? If the plan changes, then what happens?
It will come back to this board.
Because there was a case yesterday with Conservation Commission that plans were different than what the Board of Health would have. I don't think that's probably come or not the
You will not see those. I review and
110,
approve
no,
septic
110
plans.
Pine Street thing.
That is a septic plan, not an irrigation well.
Right.
So as I
So
said
that's-
before, let me explain.
The situation is the plans are
If I can
different.
explain, I didn't
Yeah,
have a chance to finish.
my
Go
intention,
ahead. I'm
my
not
intention
gonna
was asking
argue.
the question was,
Or just
the plans are
interrupt you.
different between the conservation as well as here, which we want to make sure they're same plan, everything, either septic or well or whatever it is, that they all should have the same plan between the departments. Otherwise, when they look at those plans, you will have a different information. When you look at these plans, you'll have a different information, which is not consistent. So we had,
Aren't you on the
If-
conservation?
I am, there was an issue there.
So there should be no problem then?
There was an issue on that.
But I think
I
we're crossing
understand.
lines.
Yeah, you are, you're dealing
Yes,
with another
I'm having a
plan.
difficult time following. There's
I
multiple
said we're
people.
crossing lines here.
There's multiple people speaking at the same time.
I just wanted to make sure the plans submitted for different departments here have consistency in their layouts. That's what it is, that's all.
KAG, we have to worry about the Board of Health, not the other departments. And
Madam
that
Chair,
would
if
come
I-
up in tech review with Mark and the people from your conservation agent.
And if I may,
I-
Madam Chair, I can
Yes,
ask,
ma'am.
do I have the floor, Madam Chair?
Yes, you do.
Okay, Madam Chair, if you just said I had the floor, could you make sure that that is understood by all?
Yes,
Okay.
Mark has the floor.
If I may, to the applicant, Madam Chair, Mike, is this the same plan you deciding to bring to the Conservation Commission?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I had to ask.
That's fine, I'm not casting any doubt about you coming with it, but I found a case yesterday that we had difficulty in deciding on it. We had
Okay, I have a
we had already
motion on the
closed
floor.
file. So I just
Enough,
wanted to make
KG.
sure that
Enough,
town has a consistent plan.
Excuse me?
enough.
Excuse me?
He said that
You're
we've
not
got
gonna
the
let
same
him
thing,
finish
that
his
is
thought?
enough.
Enough.
You're not going to let KG finish his thoughts?
No, I'm not, because he's verging on another board that he's on. We're worried about Board of Health.
Madam Chair, please, let him finish his thought. He's a full member of this board.
I understand that. Okay, I have a motion on the
I would
floor
like to, I
grant
would
the-
like to
permit for the
request that
well.
the chair allow,
Do I have a second?
allow member KG Nariana to finish his statements and his questions.
Do I have a second on the motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a second, I have
Could you
Uh,
please repeat the
discussion.
motion?
Now you may go ahead, KG, with your question.
I just wanted to make sure the plans are consistent, that's all. I just wanted to make sure they are taken care of.
You just heard the man say
I
that they
did
was
hear
the
from
same.
him, but the case that happened
But
was...
it wasn't this man, he said he brought you the same
It's not this
plan.
man, but I just want to make sure the health agent or the director here keeps track of those things and make sure that it's consistent. That's all I wanted.
And Madam Chair, I
Make sure
can
it's
assure you I do.
I'm
I
sure
have
you're.
That's fine.
daily
Since that was my
conversations.
motion, may I speak?
Yes, please.
With Mr. Orm's 30 years worth of experience on this and Mr. Kane's unquestionable reputation as a quality builder in this town, I have full faith and confidence in Mr. Orm and Mr. Kane that if there's any problems that come up with conservation, they'll be dealt with appropriately and swiftly.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I don't actually believe that I have adequate information at this time to vote. And I would like that comment to be part of the record.
What additional information do you need? If it meets all state requirements, just asking.
For one thing, the plan and Mr. Orm's statements, I just would like to be able to I would like to investigate or look further into what his statements were. Based upon previous history, I'm not always fully informed, and having bits and pieces doesn't appear to be a complete story to me.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
The plan is right here. Questioning Mr. Orm's integrity, I think, is out of.
That
scope
is
of
not
what
what I
we-
questioned.
Well, then what are you questioning then?
I am questioning the facts.
What facts?
What-
Madam Chair, could I make a suggestion?
Yes, Kate.
Could I make a suggestion? Okay. So, you could, if there's concern that there's an earlier plan that perhaps hasn't been, an updated plan hasn't been submitted to conservation, the timing could easily be rectified. If you feel comfortable with what's before you now, presently, the evidence before you, you could ensure that by making a proper motion, by citing to the plan, without any changes, any changes would require return to the board. There are a whole host of mechanisms you can use to ensure that your concerns are related.
Let me make sure, I have no concern with this gentleman's plan or this plan.
Yeah.
All that I said was because there was a case yesterday that came up before,
Yeah, sure.
which is going to have a different plan than what was submitted to the conservation. It's going to come to a different plan for the Board of Health, that I know that.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure that going onwards, that we don't want to have a complicated situation with two different plans.
John, would you care to?
I don't want to
rephrase your
elaborate
motion?
more on what happened in conservation
Okay.
because it was a complicated issue that yesterday happened.
Yeah,
I just
sure.
want to avoid such complications further on. That's all I said. Ensure that whoever deals with it subsequently, make sure that it's a consistent plan, that's all.
Which is perfectly sensible and
And he has agreed and
Yeah.
he has stated the only plan, so there shouldn't be any problem with agreeing with what I see.
John?
If I may, Madam Chair, I'll restate my motion.
Please.
I will make a motion that we approve Lot 3 of Wilson's Circle requesting of an irrigation well based off the information provided to us. This is part of the public record and the documentation with oversight from our health director, Mark Oram, and and contingent that it passes conservation, and any changes that will come out of conservation will come back to this board.
Could you
also Do I-
add that the test results of the water be brought to the board, like what we have done it for the others?
It falls under my authority.
I understand that it has been consistent before for others, so let's make it
Not
consistent.
all.
It hasn't been consistent, rather, we don't typically build apartment complexes next to supermarkets.
It ties them up.
That's the only time we've ever done it.
I question.
That's my motion, that's my motion.
Okay, that's your
Do I have
motion.
a second?
I'm questioning the statement, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
My question is of Mark Oram. I'm interested in knowing where his authority on these things have been defined, because not that long ago, I questioned or requested of the town manager, who is Mark Oram's supervisor, and Mark works under his direction and control. I requested copies of the policies and the regulations that that our board functions under, and I did not see anything that defined that authority.
So you're turning this into a personal agenda against Mr. Kane's application, is what I'm hearing. You're not happy with Mark's duties. So you're using Mr. Kane's presentation here tonight as a prop for that? Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Well, once again, Madam Chair, I'm requesting that Mr. Featherston refrain from personal attack. I asked a simple question to request a clarification.
question.
I asked a simple question to clarify. Mark Warham had suggested that the oversight is under his authority, and that I don't remember his exact words, so I don't want to restate it. But it's just for clarification on this particular project to understand what is that oversight.
Okay, we understand your interest. We now have a motion on the floor and a second.
May I
We've
have
had
an answer to
discussion.
the question, please?
We have discussion.
May I have an answer to my question, please?
You have an answer in that Mark is our agent, and he handles these things for us.
So we don't
We
have
have
that, we don't
policy
have
board.
any written policy, and because that is my understanding.
Mark's position for the Board of Health is to oversee all of these type of permits. We have granted him permission to sign all the permits for the town, including this.
It's common practice of this board.
Exactly.
Well, I had asked many months ago, maybe 6 months ago, because I hear that it's common practice, or it's our policy, or this is the way we do it. And when I requested of Michael Herbert copies of those, he indicated that what is on the website is all that exists for this board. So I am concerned that we
I would
do not
suggest-
have any written agreement or agreement to
Ms.
that.
Magoulas, I
And
would
what you may
suggest
be
you go back in
expressing,
the minutes
what you may be expressing is your
to see where
opinion.
we voted him these powers way back when, after you came on the board, to make all the signatures. That was after you had a problem with your signature being used on permits.
No, what I had a problem with, because you're stating something that's incorrect, what I had a problem was, it was my electronic signature was used without my permission or my knowledge on permits.
I see.
That is what I had a problem with.
Signed the paper.
in
But
that-
yet you signed it when you came on the
I'm so
board.
sorry, would like to finish my statement, because you made an incorrect statement, and it
No.
needs to be
No, I didn't.
corrected, that my signature was clearly used without my permission or my knowledge, my electronic signature, and that is what still is a concern.
Okay, we are
so-
keeping Mr.
Okay.
Kane waiting. We have a motion, it's been seconded, we've had discussion, we need a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I'm opposing because that the test results are not being brought to the.
Abstentions?
I'm abstaining
311, Laura.
for the reasons that I had stated.
Okay. You want to fill us in on Hunt too,
Sure,
Mark?
and I was hoping you want to be here if you want. I'll wait till 7:30. He may be here to fill in some information, so in between, Madam Chair, I would ask that we just continue on, and I'll hold that agenda item to give the opportunity.
Okay. So we'll hold until he gets here.
We can go, yeah, if we could go back, if he does show, if he
Yep.
doesn't. So it would be number 5 at this point.
Okay, this is the review of the open meeting law complaint filed by Steve Morgan on 8/31 concerning the Board of Health meeting on August 29.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if I could just, Mr. Morgan sent a couple emails today saying that he was planning to be in attendance, and
he was
planning-
down earlier and he's coming back.
He's coming back. Might it be that, just a suggestion, that maybe we move to Board of Health Policy and Procedures so he can be back and present in the room, so he can't say that.
That's fine.
We
Okay.
talked about his
We can
open
do
meeting
that.
law complaint without him in the room.
So we'll move 11 up to 5.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'll
to
make a
4.
motion that we reorganize the agenda and move item number 11 back up to what would be number 5 on the agenda.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second that.
All in favor?
I have a question, Honto. Did you mention what we're doing with that? I see
He
it's
did.
on here.
He
Well,
just
I'm
did.
sorry, I missed that.
We're waiting for them to arrive, so we are moving policies and procedures
Okay.
up in their
Thank you.
place.
Thank you for the
Do they know
clarification.
that it's going to be here?
Yes, they do know they're
Oh,
supposed to
okay,
be
'cause
here.
we don't want them to wait there.
There were signs posted around the building too. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark?
Okay, so we're going
Oh,
to,
did we actually call the vote?
The policies and procedures?
I guess you have to
We
wait
had
for
a
the vote
motion
on
and a
the
second, and
change.
then we-
Oh, I'm
we
sorry.
call the vote. Just
Do I
to be
have,
for-
do I have a motion to,
Yep, and you got a second.
Yeah.
and I had a second?
Yeah.
We've had the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? 5.
And before Mr. Oram proceeds, if he's going to proceed, could I interject for 1 minute? I noticed on the agenda, and Mark had sent me the agenda before, and I did not catch this, but do you notice how this number 11 changed to status of Board of Health Policies and Procedures? So we're a little bit more confined than review of policies and procedures. So make your comments and discussion appropriately short to just deal with
The status.
status.
Mhm.
Okay, just so everyone's on the same page. Is everyone clear on that? I apologize. I
I'm
didn't-
not exactly
I'm
clear
not
on
So-
what that
clear on
means
what that
either.
means.
Yeah.
If I may?
Yes.
If
Oh,
I may
please.
update everyone here. There's been question on if the board's policies and procedures are still in existence. And that has been discussed at past meetings. And it's based on the fact that the board suspended part of these policies and procedures to extend a meeting time. So there has been question if they exist at all at this point. It's been questioned at meetings in the past few months. So that is the agenda item. Do they still exist?
Right.
That's the status word that came into
So we're
play.
confined to dealing with that question as opposed to really doing a comprehensive review or consideration. So
Yes.
when you're
Understood. Yeah,
discussing
okay, got
it,
That
I
makes
guess
it an
limit
easier
your conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes it a lot
Right,
easier.
makes it a lot easier.
So, and before I get into that piece, I would make a suggestion to the board for an agenda item to really consider that, and it would delve into the next agenda item of facilitation. I think, having an open and honest discussion about these things that bind the board would may be productive. I'm just suggesting it. So it might be helpful.
But isn't it also what
It's,
the agenda? item
it's,
was?
it's a suggestion for next time, so it was unanticipated by you, Ms. Mortensen, that I would say that. That said, we're not discussing it and putting it out there, and you can consider putting it as an agenda item when it's appropriate.
Okay.
So in terms of the status of the board, Mark, would you like me to speak on that?
Yeah, that was,
Yeah, okay.
items, those items were for your review.
Yeah,
I was just
okay.
giving you kind of the rundown.
Yeah, perfect. So, in any event, yes, there have been some statements in the past that the rules and policies and procedures have been suspended. And essentially what some board members and some members of the public believed suspended the rules permanently were several motions which occurred after the 9 o'clock hour. Because essentially what your rules state is that you're not going to go beyond the 9 o'clock hour. So what happens typically is a member makes a motion to suspend the rules. It's a temporary motion. It's implicit in that motion because you've hit 9 o'clock. You're really running on a topic. You're making forward progress, and you want to go and proceed beyond the 9 o'clock hour. Not only has it been done multiple times with this very board, if they were suspended or revoked indefinitely, you wouldn't have to keep repeating that motion. So, not only is it routine with this board, but it's routine with so many other boards who have these procedural rules. Some city councils require 3 meetings of any grant application or ordinance change or whatever, 3 meetings, appearances before the city council, but emergencies arise, so they vote to suspend the rules. It's suspended for the moment, and the rules obviously come back into place. Implicit in that motion is that it's not ever after. It's just to allow the meeting to proceed. So that's my reading of it, and that's why there are so many motions that this very board have made.
So your opinion is that they are still in effect?
Yes.
They are only exempt when a motion is made to extend the time?
That is my opinion.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
so Madam Chair, believe the
Yes.
suspension happened because of my motion that I made. The intent of that motion was to make it permanent suspension that I had. But it was not needed. If I needed to be explicitly to be specific on it, I would have made that way. The reason that I did suspend it because I'm not happy with the policy and procedure. I have made an attempt to address this issue in several boards to put it on the agenda over a year. That has not occurred, not happened. And I have reviewed it, and then last time when you had the meeting, I did provide a copy to Administrative Secretary Laura there to have it distributed. It couldn't be distributed because it was last minute, and I did make a statement at the end of the meeting saying that it be distributed. And there was some issue after that, and there was an email conversation with Mark Oram on issuing, on distributing or not, and then I have already consulted Attorney Kate here, and she said it could be distributed, so hopefully that get distributed to the board members. Just multiple changes, and she has a copy of that one already given to her to review through it. So there is inconsistency in the policies itself, and there are places where it violates the town bylaw. So I think that one needs to look at it and review it, and there's no point. And besides this, I've also looked and asked many times for a previous version of this policy and procedure. There doesn't seem to be one that was provided to me or given to me. And if the board has done its job very well in the past
John?
30 plus years, not this version, this is the version that I know of. I'm talking about something that was prior to my arrival into the board. No, nobody gave me. There's no policies and procedures that exist
Is that,
prior to 2000. Not that I know of, prior to 2016 or 2015. Let me finish it. So that's, given that, this policy and procedure
Yeah,
came into
I have the same
existence without a basis of how to change or modify a policy and procedure that was already in existence. So I feel that fundamentally the basic principle which stands to make this valid was not validated in the early days. So I would rather have you people
Can I chime in?
review it, look at it, make a thorough search, and make sure it is properly edited and taken care of.
Yes,
And I've
John?
also
Can I borrow that?
suggested that we should not put too many rigidities in the place, like meeting from 7 to 9 p.m. and only certain dates. Those are the, I understand, those are the things which will, yeah, those are the things will happen. So I just wanted to make sure that when we review next time, we make a thorough review on it.
So, and
Thank you.
I just want to reiterate, I really do think, even if it's a lengthy discussion, it's important to have, conversation about items that are important to board members. And again, it goes to the facilitation that we're going to address tonight as well. If there are issues, it's not always good to say, well, this is what it is, and we're not going to deal with it. Consider it. You may not agree with KG on his substantive changes, which I'm not going to get into right now. But let's talk about this and let's make some forward
That's
progress
something that we can put on a future.
on a future agenda. Absolutely.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, may I now speak?
Yes, John?
I mean, council, I applaud your efforts to try to find middle ground, but I would like to remind people, everybody but Ron was aware of this. On May 11, 2016, in this room, who I believe your business partner, Lisa Mead, was in this room, vetted these, gave her legal opinion on this. My esteemed member here tonight says that they're not valid and they go against our charter and everything. So I take kind of exception to the fact that Lisa Mead, who's been town council for this town for probably more than a decade, signed off on these, recommended these.
Going into the content of it?
I'm following up something that was said in a public meeting. Said that they were good. A couple of members chose not to attend that meeting, but a quorum was made.
I object to the word chose.
so you're self-identifying yourself as the one that I was talking about. A quorum of the board decided that they were good.
Snickering is not helpful, Mary.
Judith's job.
Well, I'll,
John has
let
the
me
floor.
address his words after he speaks.
The board drafted these as policies and procedures. These policies and procedures have been in place for now, what, 18, 19 months? One member doesn't like the policy of the board, so he's going to make a intentional motion to suspend them.
John, please, let me
I mean,
please
no,
interject
this
here.
is not
I don't wanna
acceptable. This is
deviate.
not
I don't
acceptable.
want to deviate, and I'm not suggesting KG has a point or you have a point as to the substance. I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying it might be worthwhile to have the discussion. And if you want to have the discussion, please have it at another meeting when it's been properly posted. And I'm just trying to.
I understand and I
keep us
respect that.
contained
I
here.
understand and respect that. But
Okay.
this isn't, and with all due respect, counsel, and I deeply respect you, you've known that this has been an issue for multiple members of this board for quite a few months.
I have known, sure.
And we agreed that we were going to talk about it last week. We didn't talk about it last week. We're not going to talk about it tonight.
It'll be the first thing on the
It's
agenda.
extremely
at our next
frustrating.
meeting.
It's
I-
extremely, and it's binding to, it's paramount to everything that's going on.
It's frustrating for me too.
I understand.
John?
I just wanted to put that out in the public record.
Wants the floor?
Please.
KG, just a question, since, you're the one that made the original motion. That was a pretty lengty explanation you just gave. When you made that motion, do you think the other board members were aware that you were speaking about suspending the policies and procedures forever? Or just you saying, I'd like to suspend the policies and procedures because I would like to go past a certain time frame, which is normal standard operating procedure,
Yeah.
like council has said, so that they would again go back into force and not necessarily discuss the actual things that council has said to put on a later agenda
Right.
meeting? Because I wasn't there, but I wouldn't think, given the lengthy explanation that you gave, if you were to have made that motion, that more than likely, I would think that if it was a 5-0 vote to go, that if you said that it wouldn't have been a 5-0 vote. That's just the feeling that I get. Is that accurate?
Ron, what I stated is in my mind was accurate, but I cannot read somebody else's mind when they heard my motion, what they thought in their mind. They don't. I have no idea.
Yeah, but that's incumbent upon you to make it explicitly clear.
I understand, but
If
we
you
have
make
made,
the motion.
I might have made a mistake in not making it very clear.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that needs to be interpreted as somebody else did not interpret it properly. That's.
Yeah, but
it is
that's
their
the
own-
only way
their own-
anybody can interpret it.
It would be my turn
It-
next,
it-
please.
Right? I mean,
It's-
well, unless you specifically state that you want to discuss the actual content of it as not being contingent with, as you said, how would anybody know that you weren't just saying, I would just want to extend the meeting and then rules are back and forth like they usually are?
I didn't say that. It was meant for suspension and then extension
Yeah,
was
but
made.
you didn't say that.
Right.
Well, I did not say it, but
So-
does not mean that it did not in my mind. That is what I
That's
was
true,
had.
but we can't read your mind, so
That's
you
what,
have,
that is the case.
Okay,
That's
so-
what I'm saying, that
We need to
neither
put-
I can read somebody else's mind
I have
either.
not had an opportunity to,
I
We
can't
need
read
to put
somebody
this
else's
on
mind.
hold.
I have
I-
not
I
had an
agree.
opportunity to
Our
speak.
hearing
Madam
for-
Chair, I have not had an
Judith,
opportunity to speak on this.
We will
Please.
go back to this. We have a meeting that was supposed to happen at 7:30. The gentleman is now here, and we need to progress with that.
I'm sorry, are we not going to
Madam Chair?
finish this topic?
Madam Chair, she has not had a chance to voice her opinion.
I have not had
I
a
would
chance.
suggest that you may
We
want
will
to
be
let her
going
do-
back to go over this further.
For the status,
I'm sorry?
on the status issue?
On the stated issue, yes.
The status is true.
But we have the gentleman
agenda
here from
item,
Hunt
you're
too, who's
No,
here for a
you
meeting.
reviewing the policy and procedure, you're going back to do that, that is at the next meeting or subsequent meeting,
There's a-
whenever the agenda happens, but
There's a
I
difference.
on
want
this
to be
agenda
able to-
item that she has not spoken, if I remember right, but
Well, we were told tonight that the status of the policies and procedures is that they're still in effect.
Exactly.
that is,
No, no. I have not had an opportunity to speak.
But that doesn't negate what I just said, does it?
No,
Council's
Council's
recommendations.
opinion is an opinion. If I can have the floor and have my opportunity to speak, When that motion was
I need a
made,
timer.
I was one of the members who agreed with it. And since then, I have looked, because there is an interest here that it should have been more specific. Well, going back to standard Robert's rules and other procedural references, they say that when you make a suspension, you specify specifically what it is to suspend if you wish it to be specific. When KG made that motion and I voted for it, I voted the way KG was thinking also. So we have 4 of the members here who voted for that motion to be suspended. This is part of the problem with having these motions that are, in this case, it was specific. He said, I make a motion to suspend the rules. He did not say, I make a motion to suspend the rules so we can extend the meeting, which is what all the references say you must do if that is the specific item that you wish to extend. So that's the one thing, is it is consistent. What he said is what he said. What I voted for is what he said. And when we make motions, we need to be clear. And if so, other people interpreted different ways, you know, it was clear. It said to suspend the rules. The other point I wish to make is, I believe I have heard at 2 meetings, probably about 3 or 4 months apart, where it was the rules were suspended in order to extend the meeting. But since then, I have not heard any other motions, but yet consistently, there are extensions of meetings and other content, which I don't want to get into, concerning these policies that have not been followed. So why is it we're consistently not following these policies, yet they're in effect? So I think our behavior shows that and our behavior as a board and the things that we do during our board meetings shows that we don't honor them.
Are you finished, Judith?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now we're going to see Han 2. Mark, would you
Yes.
give us the background?
Yes. Han 2 has been inspected. Based on a complaint we received, it was a isolated call from a person that ate at Han 2 and said they believed the food illness they thought they had was from Han 2. And in turn, once we get a call like that, we are required per state code to go do an inspection as well as do a food-borne illness investigation report. We've tried to work with the person that contacted us, but she has failed to give us the information we need on the investigation. We made 3 to 4 attempts to get that information, but at the same time, we're still required to inspect. So we went to Tom Curran, our food inspector, went over to Han 2 and inspected, and those reports have been forwarded to the board members. And in doing his inspection, he found some violations that, in turn, I felt were, 1, critical and repetitive in respect to the December 2016 inspection. I will say, and I'll give credit to the operation of Han 2, and they're here, they're in the audience. Ray's here, that Ray Jing, is that how you pronounce your last name, Ray? Did react to the report in a very expeditious way. And then one other item did come up that I mentioned to Tom, and that was organic food posting, which he had seen. And I said, Tom, that was a requirement from another, not the state, but the USDA. So that sign was taken down till they can follow the procedures to advertise for organic food. And they did correct the other items. One missing item was a choke saver, and I spoke to Ray as of yesterday about getting more staff involved, because, you know, there's going to be the day that Ray can't be there when they're in operation, and he assured me he will be doing that. So they're here, Madam Chair, if you so wish to hear any more testimony from them, but at this point, I believe they satisfied up to this point the requirements of the inspection report. But again, my suggestion to Ray is he's only one person, and to get additional people trained in choke saver, so that unfortunately, if it ever did happen, someone would be on staff at all times. My recommendation would be at least 3 additional people, maybe a clerk at the cashier that's there all the time, or the bartender if it's later at night, or might it be a waitress or 2, or waiter. So with that said, Ray is here if the board has, if the chair so wishes, how to run this discussion. But if he would like to add anything, I would ask
do you
the
wanna
chair
add
if
anything?
that's allowed.
How are you tonight, everybody? Yeah.
You need to speak up, honey.
Just go right to the mic.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, I bring all the lock. Yeah, and then also I did make appointment with the guy who I did, and they will be show up Saturday 1:30. I
So-
can show you the
So
email.
training is on,
Yep.
just to help out with the,
Yeah.
because I know it's
Saturday.
hard to hear. Training's on Saturday at 1:30 for how many additional people, Ray?
I'm trying to get 10 people.
10?
Yeah,
Very
but not
good.
just these locations. Yeah, we'll try
Yeah,
to
you have
get
two
it done.
locations.
Yeah, so we'll try to get it done. Yeah.
And what he
okay.
was pointing to at over there
Yeah,
is his
so sorry.
logbooks.
Yeah.
And he said logbooks, Ray, those are your
Yeah.
logbooks of temperatures?
Yeah, I bring all
Sanitation?
here. If
Okay,
the
I
board want to
just-
review, I'm more than welcome. But
But
just
he didn't
little
like it.
dirty.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm so sorry,
he
dude.
didn't have any
But
problem.
just
Doing
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Doing great.
Thank you.
No, I told him
Yeah.
it's important to show the board. Just so you know, I asked Ray to bring those. I told him it's important to show the board, and Mary just was curious,
Yeah.
to show good faith effort on his part. So I give him credit, but now at this
Absolutely.
point, as Ray knows, this is, we move forward.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll never see you here again. It's not that
Yeah.
we don't like you, or I don't like you, I just want you to succeed and make sure everything's in good order.
Yeah, we're trying to do the right way. Yeah,
very
whatever we need to do,
understand that.
we'll fix it. Yeah, so yeah, that's what we're here for.
And if I may, Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Ray, how many certified food managers do you have on
We
staff at
got,
Tohoto and Ashland?
Yeah, we got 1, 2. We got, if I remember right, 4.
4 on staff.
Yeah.
One, what's that?
All of them are full-time?
No, they're full-time, but not all
Full-time
the same
and part-time,
time.
yeah.
They're not there for the full hours, but they're full-time, correct?
Yeah, they are full time, but there's different
25
hours.
times
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
You're talking about 140 hours in a week.
Does that include you too, Ray?
No.
No, so there's 5.
Yeah, we also yeah. So we also have
So that accounts for someone being certified in the working hours of the restaurant.
yeah.
Okay. That's what we want.
Yeah. Any other
Anyone else have
questions?
any questions?
Yeah.
KG?
I do have a general remark. I know that you got the choke certificate for this vendor, and some of these reports that I have seen from Tom Curran often doesn't indicate the expiry date on that one. Is that not being seen or not there or not? But maybe you can suggest Tom Curran to make sure that he adds that information in his reports. I've seen over 90 reports over the past 6 months.
That's a
So it doesn't
separate
show up
thing,
on the
isn't it?
report sometimes, and then, if one looks at it, then it would imply that he's being singled out, but I'm sure he's not being singled out. But I just want to make sure the process is done properly so that Tom Curran marks those things in the paper.
Yeah, that is also put on the application. KG, you may not remember, but you, Tom, and I sat down right when you got back from a long vacation. Actually, you weren't feeling good that day. I remember you saying, "I'll stay away from you."
Right.
But we went over that with you then, and I'll be glad to explain it so that the board knows as well.
no,
That we're going, we do
just-
that. Let me finish, please.
Sure.
You know, that's one thing if I could finish.
Yeah.
It helps to, so as we explained back then with the meeting with you, Tom checks for that, and we check for that on the applications. So it's checked by Tom, and we check as well, and that's what you were informed of at that meeting.
I understand.
Okay.
But in the report, what happens is they check the expiry date for others and they leave the blank on the choke expiry. So that is where the question is. If that is done, then there'll be a double check on the application as well as on site.
it's checked
So
on
that
the
is what I wanted to make sure, because if one reads the reports and then looks at their complaint, they seem to be singled out, but it is not true. I
No,
know
they're
that
not
it is
singled
not,
out.
but the reports indicate that he may be singled out.
good.
So we just want to make sure that we are treating everybody uniformly, so it's better to put it on the sheet, report.
Okay. Anything else, KJ? Judith, you have any comments?
Not at this, yes, I do have a question. Are there the other report, these are the electronically generated ones that have been shared with us. Are there the other ones using the other method, which is more of a hand-related form filled out?
We are going all electronic. We have gone all electronic with the two computers. So Tom's doing the reports right now, and if Tom's not here, I'll be taking over the electronics, and we're hoping to get one more computer that will be easier to use than the laptop. We're
So-
using now a iPad. There's a name for it, the Microsoft Surface.
So my question is, do any other forms exist in,
Electronic form is the form we're using. No other form exists unless that breaks down, then we can go back to paper if there's a technical error or issue, such as the equipment.
And the data is transferred onto the electronic afterwards, is that right?
Electronic, well, if it was, say we were down for some reason for a few months, we may have to scan it. We would scan, if that's the case. But that hasn't happened, but we do have a backup just in case.
so when did your office go over to an electronic-only form? Because that's all we have here. I know I've seen recent ones for paper.
The Surface we purchased in the spring, I believe. If it's not on the agenda, but I'd be glad to research that and bring it back on the exact dates.
I mean,
Well-
back in
You know, we're-
2012, I got the grant for you for.
That's
the
right, John.
electronic
That's the
solution, so
laptop
it's
that we
been
have.
a long time.
So
Yeah.
I have seen recent paper files, paper forms used. This specific facility, I don't want to speak to anything other than what's on the agenda. So this specific facility, when did your office, the health department, stop using the written, approximately within a couple months? The written forms and have gone to only electronic. Is this more recently in the last couple months, or is this?
For Hun two,
Because I know I've seen other
you saw,
restaurants.
Judy, did you see a paper form? Madam Chair, if I may go through
Yes.
there?
I have seen paper forms
what
for
I
other
thought.
restaurants, but I don't want to speak to those restaurants.
No,
I'd
no,
like
for
to only
this one,
speak
you're
to this
specific
one.
For this
to this one.
restaurant.
So my question is approximately, when did your office go over to all electronic for this particular restaurant? The information, I asked that question because the information that, although it's the same checkoff spots, it has a different presentation, and so I'm interested in knowing
Well-
if those other forms exist relatively in the last 6 months for this
What I
restaurant.
can do, madam, if I can through you
Yes,
again,
Mark.
for the person in question, which is Judy, I can research that. It wasn't on the agenda, but I'll be glad to research it and come back with an answer.
Okay.
Best I can do.
It relates directly
wanna
to
do
this. I'm not trying to go off the agenda, I just wanted to clarify.
Well, again, that's something that
It
wasn't
just
a
relates,
reports.
it relates to what we have in hand as an electronic copy, and
And
I'm
it's off the
interested in
agenda.
knowing whether the other ones exist. So that if
We'll
they do
research it.
exist, if they do
We'll
exist, I
research
would
it.
like
It's
to
not
be
a
able to review them.
Okay. John?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to get this back onto the agenda item, which is Hontu. Ray, you know I love you. You know you're an asset to the community. You really are a pillar of this community. I'm frustrated that you're here tonight. I made the motion at the last meeting for you to be here tonight. You know, about a year ago, this board went out of their way to assist you. And I told you about a year ago, I don't want to see you again. And yet here you are. I know. And you know, I say this with tough love, because you're an asset to the community, your restaurant's an asset to the community loves it. Unfortunately, you've set the precedent now that you have to be perfect, and you have to be perfect all of the time. And I hate to have to be the heavy here tonight to tell you that, but and I told you this a year ago, and I'm going to tell you again tonight, but tonight will be the last time this board will tell you that. There's zero tolerance going forward. Zero. And that's a public statement, you know, from myself as a member, and I think probably the rest of the board. Zero tolerance. You have to be perfect. I know you can do it, and you need to do it. And I say this, I never want to see you in this here again. So do your best.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to clarify that Mr. Featherston is speaking for himself, not for the entire board. He said he's
I
speaking.
didn't say I was speaking for the
I
entire
heard
board.
for the board, and I think I can speak for the entire board, so I just wanted to clarify that he's speaking for himself.
Okay, with the exception of Judy and KJ, you may speak for the board.
Thank you.
Excuse me?
Kate, Ron, did you have anything? You
No,
weren't,
I-
you weren't
very
here.
No, I'm sure he's kind of scared straight, he's gonna do what he needs to do. So, I eat at your place and I enjoy it as well, so.
No, the one thing that I asked Mark was how severe the problem was, because I didn't know if we would be meeting with you to suspend your license.
Yeah.
Luckily, corrections were made immediately, problems were solved, so you're not in that predicament. But don't let there be a next time.
I promise, yeah, for all of the board. But, yeah.
Mark, did you have any more comments?
I would just ask that, and Ray and I had this discussion, continue with your education to and training of all your staff. You did explain why the violation did happen. You said that person was trained, but they still went ahead and did something even after their training. So that,
He's gone.
yeah, no, and that-
he's
again,
gone,
that's a
yeah.
management decision, but again, you gotta make sure they're trained.
Yeah.
Because that's your responsibility. And if they're not, and they make mistakes, you need to be there, or the other certified food managers, to make immediate correction. As other board members have said, zero tolerance. So everyone on board, certified food managers to the new people working there, they all need to be aware of the same standards that we're expecting, so that are required, not expecting.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
One question for Ray, if you don't mind. Madam Chair,
Yes,
I have one question for Ray, if you don't mind.
yes.
The 4 certificate manager that you have is exclusively for this restaurant or put together?
No, this, we have a different managers, yeah.
So the certificate manager for the other establishment is separate than this one? This is
Yeah,
all
yeah.
all the 4 here?
This is all here,
Okay,
though.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, all the board, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
All right. Stephen still hasn't come down, so we'll move on to number 12. Ron?
I'm sorry, are we done with 11? So.
Yes.
Okay.
We are?
Fine. I didn't know
For
if we
now.
were coming back to it or.
Mary was the.
Well, we're going to put it on the agenda for a full discussion, so do you feel we need to go back to it, Lisa?
I just,
Kate,
That's a nice
Kate.
compliment, though, thank you.
the only,
Kate?
Freudian.
I was thinking.
So, I gave my opinion, you're going to put it on the agenda. I think Ms. Margulies wanted to make a comment on the status component. I don't know, you're the chairman, you control the meeting. If you feel like it's been fully vetted, you're in charge. But
Well, I think
Is there a
she,
vote
I think
on
she
that?
has already
That's a good point.
expressed her concern about the suspension or whatnot.
Yeah, I kind of can't remember, to be frank, so.
Right.
Well, and I think there was, and I'll ask the recording person, Mary, if you don't, Laura, you don't have to get that official. But I think there was a motion on the floor, but correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, was there a motion? There wasn't a motion, just to remain as it is presently, because we were here tonight for the status.
Right.
I don't know if the board was voting on the status tonight, or if it just
No.
remains.
I don't think you
Okay.
need a vote on that.
You don't, okay.
No. All right, so,
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes,
Because
John.
Once again, we're pushing this out. Will you be joining us for the conversation?
So when is your next meeting?
2
First
weeks?
and third.
2 weeks?
Well, first
Wait a
and
minute,
third. We're
first
gonna
and
jump
third.
into October 3rd and October 17th.
yeah.
Let me just.
We have not, as a board, discussed the meeting dates. I just wanted to make a point that this meeting and the previous meeting were almost impossible for me to attend, and I would appreciate, as a board member, for consideration to be able to make meetings in an effective way. I believe that's my copy,
On that subject.
John.
Okay, can I not reference it? Oh, okay.
So,
Thank you, Ron, I appreciate that. It's very kind.
the,
You go, Ron. Best.
So I would appreciate that there have been many comments made by this board as it's read, as presently constituted, concerning all 5 board members to be able to attend. There was also comments made at the Nyanza Committee concerning Mr. Orem's schedule and having conflicts. This is what was mentioned by the other individuals on Monday Wednesday and Thursday in other towns where he may or may not be working. And
It's a
it is
point of
my
fact,
concern.
Madam Chair.
That is
Not
what was,
called
that was
for.
what was discussed at the Nyanza meeting. If there is some incorrect information there, I'm happy to hear whatever that incorrect information is. But that is what I did not discuss, but other individuals discussed. So my question would be are we scheduling meetings when they're horribly inconvenient for one member of the board at least, yet it's being done for other reasons?
Madam Chair, if I may, we're talking about
Yes.
personal attacks.
Yeah.
So I would say that's definitely one, and I'm going to start adding them up, because I have human resources protecting me. And just so the board knows, the chairman of the Nyanza Committee was given many nights that I'm available. In fact, I'm available tomorrow night for a meeting. So, to just come out with a statement like that is very, in my view, very disrespectful and a personal attack, and I will keep track of these, and I am planning to give them to Human Resources, because enough is enough. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I believe there is the need.
Was that a personal attack?
No,
Would that have been
I'm protecting
considered?
myself.
Wait a minute, because what I said was there was a discussion there, and I wanted
You were
clarification. There
Pants
was
on
a
fire.
discussion, I'm not the one who said some of those statements. Actually, it was John Featherston that said most of them.
actually, it wasn't.
But like,
I agree.
You know,
I
this
answered
is
a
what I
question.
heard. I wanted
John Dawson didn't say
clarification.
that. So once again, your credibility is called into question.
Yes.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, Madam
I'm
Chair,
available October 10th.
Stop.
Madam Chair,
Yes, John.
Well, someone's claiming that there's a personnel issue here because I asked a question about availability.
You stated that Mark Orm's not available Monday,
No,
Wednesday,
no, I
and
said that is
Thursdays.
what I
You
heard.
stated that,
Others,
and
I said
Madam
what.
Chair, I'm done with this. I will handle it the appropriate way.
I said
Yes,
what.
please do.
What I heard at that meeting was, I was not part
Come
of the
on, Chief.
discussion. I heard that discussed.
All right.
stated-
I believe in the, go ahead, John.
And then I deferred to the argument. Majority of this board, everybody but Ron, this board has been meeting consistently for more than 30 years on Tuesday nights,
the first and third.
the first and third Tuesday nights. Oftentimes, when somebody runs for a board, they need to take into consideration when those boards meet. Historically, this board has always met. It is in our policies and procedures as of today. The status of our policies and procedures is still in effect. We have these for a reason. That's when we meet. That's
Absolutely.
what we do. People make commitments to be on this board because they know what those policies and procedures are. To defer from them, I think, is not fair to the entire board or the community.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I want to correct the record. I know that when I joined the board, I did request a change of date to be done. It was done for me. Board did agree to meet on Wednesdays. It did happen. To stand on the record saying that it has met over 40 years or 30 years is a long time is not correct. So often it has been made sure, in order to address an issue that comes up on the board's hand, we have met other days too.
We have met more often than the first and third
that
Tuesday.
statement-
Excuse
that-
me, I'm speaking.
Yes.
I've been on the board almost 30 years.
Right.
It's been the first and third Tuesdays. There have been extra meetings, I agree, and some were on other nights. But the majority of the board business is conducted on the first and third Tuesday.
Right. That I agree, but not always.
Well, actually, when KG and I started, it was the second and fourth Tuesday is what they had been doing for the previous year, but I have looked through
And
the
that was a
minutes.
momentary
I have-
thing because
I
of
have-
zoning boards of
Excuse me,
appeals.
I am
Absolutely.
talking now because I have looked through the minutes, and it's just not true that this is what's been happening for 30 years.
But it is.
But it is.
So,
But it is. Just because you say it's not true
excuse
doesn't
me,
make it
John,
not
John.
I understand.
Why don't you say something more like, I have a difference of perspective or a difference
don't
of
have a difference
opinion?
of perspective. I know how to
Instead of having this antagonism here, John,
not
I have looked
It's
through the
discussed.
minutes.
Okay,
Are there individuals in the hallway who wish to
Enough.
come in? There's quite a few individuals there.
It's
this
not
is-
antagonism,
this is
it's
enough.
discussed.
we're moving on. We're going to
Well, there's
listen
one
to
other
Ron.
point.
No.
There's one other point he
going
said
to
is that the
listen to Ron.
policies and procedures are in effect, and I strongly disagree with that statement.
stop.
And I want to be on the record saying that I
Point of order.
strongly disagree
John
that the
takes over on the
policies and
point of order.
procedures are in
Point of
effect.
order.
You gotta take his
Point of order, John.
The chair has asked you to stop. Please respect the chair's ability to run this meeting. You've made your point numerous times. We're all aware of what your point is. You're not getting your way, and you don't like it.
May I respond, Madam
No.
Chair? Well, why is it
We're
that John
listening to
Featherston gets
Ron.
free reign of this floor and I don't get an opportunity to speak?
Because you
Why
never
is that,
stop
John?
speaking, Judith.
Why,
John,
why is that,
Ron
Mary?
needs to speak.
Why is that, Mary?
Ron, go ahead, please.
Okay, this can be, really brief. I don't know if everybody's had a chance. I'm sorry, my copier was not great today, so I didn't make copies of everybody. We have 5 proposals on the table, ranging anywhere from, it seems like maybe $1,500 all the way up to potentially over $9,000 with a variety of different time commitments. So I think it's, it would be, and everybody's willing to work with us, depending upon how in-depth you want to get. Everybody, basically, almost in their proposals, is to say that if there are questions that the board has, that they would be willing to actually come here and speak with us. I don't think we need to do that for all 5 proposals. Just from a personal standpoint, when you look at these, some of them I think, I'm not saying that they're not good, but I think they're very in-depth and more potentially on a corporate level, more than I think we probably need and are willing. I don't think we need to bite off that much, to be honest with you. I think if we could have, somebody that has served, in a public setting or has helped boards in a public setting, and almost all of these individuals have, which I think is awesome. I don't think we could go wrong with either one of them, but I think to respect everybody's time as board members, to try to get things tied up as succinctly as we can with minimal infringement on everybody's time, because I think we're all going to have to give a little bit, that we at least look at it and maybe at least whittle down a few of them. And then if as a board, we all decide we'd like an individual presentation, if we don't feel that we can make a decision without actually speaking with somebody, then we can arrange that. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look
I
at
did.
things. Does anybody have any specific questions? I don't know that I can ask them, but I think at a prior meeting, every single person that I've spoken to said that anybody on the board could feel free to contact them, ask questions with any concerns, or I can be a conduit, or Kate, if you prefer. It doesn't matter to me, as long as everybody's comfortable with the process and everybody feels like they want to move forward.
Yes, KJ.
The only question, were they all given tasks to do, or a list of tasks to do, or they are expressing it whatever they want to do with knowing who we are?
Right.
Have they given up their proposals and then?
Right. Well, it seems like a common theme is that they either interview us individually or as a board and come up with a list of the greatest concerns and try to come up with a list of really what the problems are. And then they at least individually speak with people so that they can get a feel for exactly what everybody thinks. And then they try to formulate a plan to get us all to be able to communicate better so that we can function as a board without the conflict that we have. It seems like that's pretty standard fare. Does everybody does it a little different. One almost sounds like a psychologist counseling session. The others seem a little bit more, technically
Like team building.
and business oriented. You can kind of pick and choose, but it seems like that's basically the intent, and it seems like all of these people have done this before. I did not ask that. I just.
No, it's not that.
I just asked for a proposal.
Right, I
of
understand.
what they would do,
Yeah.
and they tried to spell it out in as much as you can, spell
Right.
out a free-flowing
Yeah.
idea like this.
Generally, when we have a list of tasks to do for them to quote, it's easy to compare because it's apple to apple rather than
No,
something
and I,
else.
and I
But I don't
completely
know
agree.
whether.
So that's my
that-
fault, because I
that-
did not ask them
That's the
to
only
do that.
reason I asked for it,
Yeah.
and I'm sure if they have spelled out everything, then we should be
Well,
able, we should be
yeah.
able to sort out and figure out who's the best or who's the suitable one to us. The other question that I had always raised was the confidentiality issue that comes up. So has that been answered, or has that to be placed in place to answer?
I can answer that, and
Yeah.
I want to first capitalize on something Ron said before. You know, we didn't give them a specific task list of things to address, because I think each person comes at it with a different approach. So they might have a different methodology or what have you. And when I approached various people, I just said, listen, we have a board that seems to have difficulty accomplishing their tasks for various reasons, conflicts. And I left it at that. And so then it was up to them to sort of present their ideas of how they would approach this, because everyone might
So
just
they
try
have
to
some
address it
definition.
differently. Yeah,
They have
yeah.
some definition.
They have
Okay.
some definition. They knew
That's fine.
who you were a public body, they knew there was conflict in the board, and they knew there was a difficulty getting business done.
Mhm.
So, as to the confidentiality component, so, you are a public body subject to the open meeting law. I had a long conversation with the Attorney General's office, the Division of Open Government, about this very issue. And we started the conversation, and I said, well, for open meeting law purposes, it's only about, you could all go to a party and talk patriots or whatever you wanted to talk about, and it wouldn't be an open meeting law violation because it's not a matter within your jurisdiction. You don't deal with the patriots, okay? So I said, this mediation, we could craft it so you're not dealing with items or matters in your jurisdiction. The problem is, you're always going to go back to examples of situations where it didn't work, right? And that's how it becomes a practical way to address your problems or your conflict or whatever is hampering this board. So, and that would be an open law violation if you're with a quorum. So we talked a lot about it because the Division of Open Government is quite familiar with the Ashland Board of Health. And they would
Infamous.
love to see some forward
Sure.
progress, for sure. So what we think we could do is break it down into smaller, non-quorum pieces. And then that would preserve the confidentiality. And everything that you say, obviously, in those sessions would be confidential. And it would preserve the confidentiality, and it might address many of your issues. If you were to meet as a board, you would have to post it, and the public would have to be able to attend. Whether or not the public would be interested is a different question.
Line up the door.
Yeah,
I guess I have my ideas if
They'd
they
be selling
would.
popcorn
Yeah.
outside.
Could be, it
Please
could
override,
be,
we can just sell tickets.
you know, but I think that's a way to accomplish it and really make some forward progress, because you don't necessarily need the entire board all at once.
So breaking down
Well,
means to, what unit would that be?
Less than a quorum.
One-on-one?
It could be one-on-one, or if they felt, that would be up to them, and it would sort of depend upon after their initial assessment. How are they envisioning, where are they envisioning the breakdowns occur? What would be a productive conversation, you know? Perhaps it's not a good idea to have two people together, or it would be more productive if other people were kept separate or together or however, but they would have to make that initial assessment after doing your survey or
I would think they
whatever.
would need to speak to each person individually before they could do that.
I think most likely that's
Yeah.
the way it would work
Yeah.
anyway.
That's how
That's
we set it last time.
typically
Yeah.
how it's
That's
done.
right.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's done via paper, sometimes it's done via conversation. So that's the way to address it, but it is a tricky issue because you are a public body.
But I think at some point, everybody says, at least for the last, meeting, that we all need to be together to at least discuss it. I don't know I don't know that there has to be anything specific said, because everything specific could have come before, where there could just be more generalities of
It's
how
like
we
a
deal with
unification
conflict
meeting.
going on.
Yeah,
Right,
certainly.
exactly.
Yeah.
Certainly, yeah. It perhaps in the beginning, or at the end of this process, or a combination of those two. There could be a generalized discussion of how you foresee or how you proceed, you think they should proceed, and you're not delving into things that people would necessarily
Right.
be concerned with divulging to the public. So, absolutely.
The information that I provided to a person on a one-on-one basis, is that a public records?
So in terms of public records, there are exceptions to the public records law, and one of those exceptions is a privacy exception. And when you're divulging personal concerns, it would be protected. So anything that was, it's called highly intimate, of a highly personal, intimate nature, or something like that. And so we would withhold that under the public records law. Okay?
Judith, did you have any comments?
It's not clear to me how exactly this will work, since a lot of our things, our words, concerns, you commented about the policies and procedures. It's the process by which we honor the town charter, the way we honor the United States Constitution, the way we honor the Massachusetts general law. And all of those things, I think, are fundamental to the way we work. And it's not clear to me how those items would be addressed, and when it's two individuals, and then it goes on to a third individual, and then a fourth individual.
Yeah.
How do we actually do that? Because I think anyone
That's
who
a good
I think anyone who works in a business environment or a professional environment rarely ever gets into personalities or they talk about process. How do we get the work done based on process? And so it's not clear.
So I have a couple of comments on that. You're making a really valid point about process, and I think that's actually the perfect example of something that should absolutely be discussed in an
Exactly.
open
Absolutely.
meeting.
Right.
And figuring out which rules that this board could agree to adhere to, and following those rules and all of those process mechanisms that you just mentioned. That said, I totally disagree that in the business context, personalities are never discussed.
Right.
Because that is a fundamental component about being a human being. You have to be able to deal with different types of personalities. You have aggressive personalities, you have meek personalities, you have all of these nuances that are specific to individuals, and you have to learn to manage that.
Possibly I used the incorrect word, because people like Mr. Featherston have even written letters to the editor with completely false and bizarre statements in them about me, say specifically. I don't care to repeat any of those because they are so bizarre. They are so they defame me. They cause a situation of liability for the town, the things that he says about me. So how do we deal with those statements? Obviously, we can't deal with those statements because I'm not going to repeat them when they are so false and bizarre. I'm not going to give them the credibility of repeating them. Yet so do we discuss that individual's actual actions in making those statements, and is that the content for an executive session? Should we discuss Mr. Featherston's letters to the editor in an executive session?
So,
Or his statements during a meeting?
okay.
I mean, he called me at the last meeting. He called me at the last.
So I'm not familiar with, I won't do it. But I will say this. I think the purpose of a facilitator is you're feeling uncomfortable. That is a feeling you have. You're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling, and and I'm not saying this is your actual feeling, so don't misconstrue me, but I'm imagining you're feeling uncomfortable. You're feeling that John's being aggressive to you. You want that approach to change. John, on the other hand, may feel differently. These are discussions that should be had, and they're not about process, they're about human interaction.
Yeah.
I agree.
And we just interacted as a 5-member board. So
Yes.
this discussion would happen as a 5-member board.
It doesn't have to happen as a 5-member board.
Because if you notice,
You
know-
felt uncomfortable speaking about the specifics of John's letter to the
No,
editor,
no.
and I have no idea what they say. They could have said, Judy's a
No.
blue Smurf. I don't know.
They didn't say that.
I'm glad they didn't say that, John. Thank you.
You know, actually, I
But-
was a blue Smurf, but that's a whole different story.
But you felt uncomfortable reiterating that because that's giving public
credibility to absolute outright lies.
okay. That's your perspective,
That-
and you
that's
feel
why we need to do
uncomfortable.
Well, I
this.
think that that's
Reiterating
a
that-
fact. I mean, he's publicly said, "I'm not a pharmacist."
I didn't say
That's
that.
a fact.
I never put that in the newspaper. That's a
I'm
lie
not gonna
again.
get into this.
It's a lie
Please,
again.
let's not get into the
That's never been
specifics of
said.
this. It's
Judy,
not
never been
productive.
said.
This is
That
not
has
going to be a
never-
perfect process.
No, it's not,
With the
but it's
limited
never
time
been
we
said.
have. But if somebody can help show us all how to get together a little bit more and
Sure.
respect everybody's feelings, there is no perfect. We only have a limited amount of time. And that's what, these proposals, that's why some of them are way too in-depth. Either we're going to try it or we're not. So if you don't feel like we can trust the process, then we shouldn't move on and waste the town's money.
No, it's not that I don't think we can trust the process. I think I just want
Just a minute.
clarification.
Well, so
But
then.
KG had,
Just a minute.
KG had a question. that
Okay.
I'm
Let Ron
interested in
finish his
hearing.
No,
comment.
no, that's fine, KG.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
KG, go ahead.
We seem to be digressing from the topic. The topic is update only. So we don't want to be hit with another OML soon. So
Oh,
make
yes.
sure
Thank
that
you.
we limit ourselves to what we are stated. So please,
Oh, that's true.
because we already have had.
So the question is, we have the,
My
re-
hands are not.
we have the
With any more
printouts.
fingers.
all right, we have the printouts of the different felicitators. Is this something that we want to do?
Can I
Yes, John?
give my opinion? A few months ago, I don't remember exactly, this board took an oath to only talk about public health. And we took an oath, and it was a majority, we all agreed, all 5 of us agreed, that we'd only talk about public health. Though I think this is important, and I want to reiterate and make it factual, that I will support anything that this board does if they want to move forward, if they don't want to move forward. But I have a couple points, and if I would, and I want to go back to a comment Ron made, if it wasn't at the last meeting, it might have been at the one prior. And if I get the age wrong, I apologize. You're a 55-year-old man, you know how to get along with people. And I made the comment, so am I. I know how to make it. As I sit here in this room tonight, and once again, it's just my opinion, which I'm still entitled to, is that majority of this is mean-spiritedness. And I would like to think that everybody who is in this room can get past this, because this town's public health is paramount. This town does not have money to waste, and that is my biggest fear, that this money will be wasted. We have a police department that needs things. We have a school department that needs things. We have an opiate crisis in this town, and this board itself is understaffed. And we're going to spend town resources on it, where I would like to think that every member of this board is mature enough to get past this without doing this, and then having to incur legal expenses and confidentiality and open meeting law violations. Can't we all agree as 5 adults to get along and put the best interest of Ashland's public health first and foremost? Because, Ron, I want to compliment you on this. This is great. Kate, I think you did a great job with this. But if we're going to worry about confidentiality of what people say and the past history that we tried this over a year ago and it didn't work, this isn't public health, folks. And we took an oath that we were only going to focus on public health. Why can't we just agree as 5 adults, guys, cut the crap, let's move forward? Because what I'm hearing tonight is that it's going to take us multiple meetings to figure out how to do this. And is that in the best interest of the town of Ashland? We took an oath to uphold the oath of the office. We have policies and procedures. We have counsel who is more than accommodating to work with us. Don't we just have to look in the mirror ourselves and say, this, what's really important is the town of Ashland, not our personal feelings, not our personal agendas, and just move forward. And then with that, I'll stop speaking.
I just want to go on record saying I'm totally in favor of a needs analysis and going forward with the facilitator.
Kate, can I ask, just would, with our already, perception at the office, the state attorney general's office,
Yeah.
would this look favorably upon us if we made some type of attempt, or does it not matter at this point?
So they're really limited in their jurisdiction. They want to deal with open meeting law complaints. So they want to deal with all of these issues that we have to discuss later on. Of course, they want to see a well-functioning board because it's positive, and when you are a well-functioning board, you tend not to have violations, right? Because you're not deviating. You're going in with a focused agenda. You're sticking to the topics because it doesn't devolve into arguments. So in that vein, I suppose they would be interested, and they've said, I hope they do it, maybe this will work out for them, but it doesn't help you in terms of corrective action or something like
No,
that.
understood.
It shows that you're making an attempt for sure, because I think the end result would be you would have fewer violations if you are working together. I do.
Okay.
Fewer violations or fewer alleged violations?
Yeah, I mean, not all of them are founded,
Right, and that's what I wanted to be perfect.
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry, John, that's a good point, that's valid.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question. Do we still have the money set aside for this?
From what I spoke with Michael, he said that he set about 5,000 or 5,500 aside originally. I think he needs to, at least you're right, be involved. I figured that's why, we have this variety. Most of these are under that,
Right.
either around that or under it. So I think we can still do something, but I agree, I think he needs to be, involved.
But I just wanted to come back to that one point. Let's just say it's $3,500. Mark,
Yes.
could we hire a part-time food inspector for $3,500 for the rest of the fiscal year?
We could use that money and
For a public health
probably have
nurse?
100 hours of a food inspector.
And that's what, all my point is. I'm not saying that this is important, I'm not saying that
Right.
it's not something that we should do.
And I'm not gonna disagree with you.
But we're,
You're right.
where we can't get our work done because we're understaffed, we're now gonna possibly spend $5,000 because 5 adults can't play nice in the sandbox. That's not good.
I know what you're saying,
That's not
Yeah.
good.
and I agree with you, John. But we've got to do something to solve the problem.
And that was kind of my motive back, I think it was June, when I said, guys, let's all take an oath to pledge that we only talk about public health. It's obvious that with the history of this board, we're not going to always agree. And to me, that's fine. We're not always going to agree, and that's why we're a 5-member board. We don't have to agree. We were designed not to agree. If we're always agreeing on everything, I don't feel like we're doing our work.
Right.
And it's good to have healthy debate. It's good to have healthy conflict. As long as it's fact-based and as long as it's not mean-spirited, I think it's healthy for this board. But what are we going to, do we really need to hire a professional for this? I think if we went to the 5th grade and they said, hey, is there a problem with this board? The 5th grade would say, yeah, they're not nice to each other. They're not nice to each other. We don't need an expert to say this. We could get the 5th grade class to do this for us. And that's what we have to do. We have to be respectful and we have to be nice and we have to talk about public health.
So can I respond to that
Please.
too, John? And I respect that. And please believe me, I wish it were the case that everyone could just forgive and forget. It would make life very easy. But in a real world context, and this happens in the employment situation, and I'm not pointing to anyone in particular. I don't know why I did that. But in the employment context, it's oftentimes helpful to have someone, a third party, intervene when people can't get along. Because the problem is, the reality is, there are so many hard feelings and such a long history that always creeps back into the back of someone's mind, and that's the reaction you're going to get. And it's based on that history. So you need someone to break that cycle. And it happens with employees fighting amongst each other, and it could go back to, I've been in places where they went to high school together, and there's a history.
How about the IG rumor that I was a setup here when Mark was being investigated or has been investigated by the IG? There's been a false rumor that I am a purposeful setup here, and that what is your agenda? What is your agenda? We actually have an open meeting law complaint where the email says from Mr. Featherston, what is your agenda? You can't erase that history because it still is. And I'm not introducing these as part of the records, but check out the numbers of pages here of emails in the last 2 months from Mr. Featherston to
Judy,
me
you're going
that are
into
harassment.
You're going into another topic, and
Well,
this has been
well-
discussed by email. It's the subject of another
Well,
complaint.
the point
I'd
I'm
rather
making,
not go into
the
it.
point I'm making is that this isn't history, this is current attack.
Yes.
This is
Fine.
presently happening.
Everyone in this board is feeling attacked and
I'm
feeling
feeling
like they have to be on the
harassed. I am
defensive, and
harassed.
as a consequence, they react in a meeting, and it's inappropriate. So you need a third party to come in here and break this cycle because it is outrageous. Every single interaction I've seen has been outrageous. And it needs to stop, and you need to pick a facilitator to get it done. That's my opinion.
I agreed with that.
She is so right about that as a person who's been following
Madam
for
Chair.
10 years. She is so right.
Yes, Judy.
Oh, I was just wondering why we're having citizens' participation,
Because they
but,
had to sit through
but,
it for 2 years.
but, I repeat what I had just said about, let's do it. Didn't that what I said?
So everyone is willing to partake of this felicitation?
Well, are we gonna pick somebody tonight?
I
I mean,
don't
do we
know how
want
to
to put it off
proceed.
another 2 weeks?
Why don't you take a minute, put it off for 2 weeks, everyone can carefully look at the proposals, come
And come
back
up
in
with
with
an
your
answer in 2
specific
weeks.
comments, and then you can choose the facilitator at the next meeting.
Because we all got copies of this
I
at the
will
last meeting.
I will make sure that everybody has.
We
I
got
just
them in
have
the
a
email.
lousy copier today.
Yeah.
I will make copies
You did.
and get them to everybody. I know that I sent an email around with an attachment but I will make
That's
sure
fine.
everybody has a copy. The only thing I think that we want to do is, and I would just say, anybody can chat with these people, there's contact information. If you give me a quick heads up, just so I can give a quick introduction, because they all kind of know, at least Kate or myself, or talk to Kate, just so you can say, hey, can we have, members X, Y, and Z give you a buzz? Oh yeah, no problem, or here's a good time, that works out, just so we all don't bombard them. I would appreciate that, because I've spoken to a few of these people, and I know Kate has as well.
Is it possible for us to set benchmarks for this? Not to exceed financial limits, not to exceed date on a calendar? I'm happy for.
I think they'll acquiesce to whatever we would like. They want to work under our guidelines, and within budgetary constraints. I mean, at least a few of these people have said they'd be willing to lower their hourly rate. So I think everything can be negotiated. If there's somebody that you really want, hey, I really like this guy, but he's, $3,000 too much. Can he scale it back to 1/3? Does he think it'll work? Do we think it'll work? I think anything's possible.
They voiced that same
Okay.
same opinion to me.
The only reason why I keep going back to benchmarks and dates and effective use of everybody's time, because everybody's busy, Judy mentioned she has conflicts, I have conflicts, everybody has conflicts. If we push this out 2 weeks, now we're into October. And then we agree that we're gonna come back, and then we're gonna push it out another 2 weeks, and then we get somebody in here. Next thing you know, and you guys all know how government works, it's December already. It's December already. And once again, I'm talking about it, it's here, we're in the last week of September here, we're probably going to have our first facilitation or meeting in December. And from late September till December, we're not focusing on public health.
Exactly.
And that concerns me. Kate, I agree with you 1,000%. If we were 5 guys in an office environment, working with each other every day, but the fact that we only meet every couple weeks, it's not that I don't support it, because I do, but I'm just worried about the time frame. Then you're getting into the holidays and availabilities and so forth. So I think it's a great idea, but I'm just worried about not establishing benchmarks.
I hear you, I'm just, and this is and maybe I'm self-interested here. This is my own concern that if we started going through the proposals now, it's 8:30,
Right,
and
I
we have
agree.
so many open meeting law complaints that we have to just address and get them done, and I can get them sent out within the time frame. And I think, to further comment on that, the flexibility of going not as an entire body also allows the process to go a lot more quickly.
Yeah.
Because Mary may be available on a Tuesday morning, whereas Judy may not be. And so the facilitator could certainly navigate around those calendars.
Yeah, so it could potentially happen more quickly, at least the part where individually he gets everybody's feel before we meet as a group, you know, potentially.
Now,
Well,
But you're
what is
right.
the ultimate goal of doing this, though?
Madam Chair.
But I think it's so that
That's
we
what
can
I
hopefully
asked a year
function
ago.
better and, you know, be able to get the Board of Health work done in a less contentious environment. I guess that's really what it's for.
KG?
What if it doesn't work?
To put
may
it,
not.
to put it succinctly, if you make the effort, it will happen. If you just keep planning on doing things, we'll never do it. We need to make
Exactly.
the effort, so that's one. The other thing is, Fran, I think you sent everything by email to everybody else, everybody. I presume Mary may not have it because her email was an issue at
No,
the
I
time.
did get
If
it.
you did get it, that's fine. That's the only thing,
Yeah.
so. I bet,
Let's
make it to do it, that's it. Then we can plan
Okay,
on.
so then
And things
let's-
do come up, I'm sure we can always accommodate and then work things out. You know,
So should.
life
should
is
we-
never regular.
Yeah, should we just everybody look at this between now and the next meeting, and we will try to vote on
I
picking
think
someone?
so.
Is that?
Put it on the agenda as.
We'll put it on
to
the
make-
agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
Well, to facilitate, you know, and to speed this up, you know, with council's recommendations and your recommendation, I'd like, you know, who's your leader?
I happen to like, I like it, I do like everybody, but when I look at the proposals and I look at George Frederick, or Frederick George, and I look at Scott Loring, those two are the most succinct, you know, out of the two that we have. Here's a proposal for 2850 and one for, that would be either between 1,000 and 1,500 with, you know, some time spent, but not,
Hey, guys.
you know, you're not talking half days and potential days like other facilitators are talking about. And I think for what we're looking to do as a 5-member board with, you know, very diverse lifestyles and jobs and time commitments, that I think we'll all get a feel for it. It's not like we're going into a, you know, a psychiatrist's house for, you know, 50 sessions, you know, what happened in your childhood kind of thing. We're just trying to get together. And I think that these would do well. They would fit more within the budget. And therefore, if it didn't work, I think we would all feel a little less guilty that we wasted less resources. But I think we could all gain from it. And if these other facilitators or mediators, as Kate said, and I said, would easily be willing to work with us. So we can scale back these. I don't know how each individual facilitator would think or what they would say if we said, hey, look, you know what? This sounds great for $9,000, but we have $3,000 to spend. Can you tailor it to meet that demand? I don't know what they would say for that. So if we don't even want to bother with that, we have 2 potential proposals that we could pick from right away. If somebody would like to investigate that a little bit more, then we should do that.
Let's investigate it more too, because I'm a bit concerned with the fact that this says update from Ron Eskovitz to, I don't want to delve into, we're not reviewing the proposals in their detail. Let's just be super cautious.
But we all have
Okay.
them.
Can we get an
You know,
update from the town manager on what the actual dollar amount is?
I will contact him Monday.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
If you,
Well,
Well,
we've got
from our
stuff to get.
conversation, he
Right.
told me it was
No,
either
but it-
5 or 55. No, I know.
Madam
We should
Chair,
get- We should get
I
that.
completely agree.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, if you're
Yeah.
jumping to next item, I'd like to have a 5-minute recess if you don't mind.
Okay, we'll recess for 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-minute recess? Next thing on our agenda is the open meeting law. Kate, you want to take it from there?
So this is a complaint by Mr. Morgan, and I have to say, first off, that I believe, it was supposed to be put on the agenda for last week, and there were problems with the posting, and as a consequence, I said hold off. In the meantime, it's completely my fault, so I will take full responsibility for this, because I had it that we would be responding in time to this complaint, since I thought it would be discussed at the 19th, meeting on the 19th, and it wasn't. So I neglected to request an extension. So I take full and complete responsibility for that, and I apologize. But in any event, this is an open meeting law complaint by Mr. Morgan, alleging that there are certain actions that, or discussions that occurred among the board members regarding topics not on the agenda. Specifically, he alleges that complaints against the chairperson, then Judy Margulies, were not topics on the agenda, as well as discussions regarding the RTD well, so the Rail Transit District well, I believe, as well as going on to additional opioids and additional complaints about the chair. So I drafted a response based on the discussions that occurred at the meeting. And in my estimation, these topics were, number one, either captured in the agenda item, so the RTD well being an example of that, captured in the agenda item, or naturally flowing from the agenda item, because the open meeting law complaint is not there to hamper productive discussion, or in this case, maybe less than productive discussion, but it's not there to hamper your discussion. Things may come up in conversation which aren't exactly identified on the agenda, but it's a natural progression. So the examples that some of the cases cite to are review of candidates for whatever position, and thereafter they vote on it, but it didn't say vote in the agenda item. Well, it's naturally presumed that you're going to take action based on the agenda item you're discussing. So in my response, I said the RTD well is captured because I believe the agenda item specifically said, here, and I'll give you the quotation. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it. Rail Transit District updates, and it specifically, oh, here. It's in the footnote. Rail Transit District updates, landowner proposed solar panels and submission of requests to ZBA, sewer and water project progress, irrigation wells at Cirrus Apartments, occupancy of clubhouse and use of the pool at Cirrus Apartments, and on and on. So the discussion occurred. It was about the wells on the property, and I feel like that sufficiently captured it. If someone were interested, and I'm not familiar with this property, but if someone were interested because they were maybe a neighbor, they know that it's the Cirrus Apartments, they know the location, they know if they're interested, perhaps it's one of these places that's near a brownfield, so they might be interested for that reason. But I feel like the question you have to ask yourself is, when I'm discussing this topic, if I were a person at home sitting reading the agenda, am I going to get up off my couch and come to the meeting because I'm interested? Or is it a topic that if that person had seen it listed differently, it would have triggered them to come? So I feel like in that instance, it was properly captured. Now, the bit about opioids was you had counsel for the board of, the conglomerate of boards of health in Massachusetts come, and she was talking about the jurisdiction of Board of Health. And John raised the question, you know, what's our role with opioids? It's a hot topic. How can we address this issue? That falls in the category of, is this in our jurisdiction or is this not? So you're not going to capture, in my mind, in an agenda item, every single possible matter that could be within a Board of Health's jurisdiction. So I felt like that properly captured it. You couldn't possibly enumerate everything that she was going to discuss dealing with your jurisdiction. Now, regarding the complaints, and there are two sites to that, complaints against the chairperson, there's this element, and we have a lot of it here, but there is an element of, listen, I didn't like the reaction here, or you should have done this as a board member. It was triggered by the agenda item. I don't feel like this was put on the agenda earlier enough, or, all kinds of things. So a complaint against the way a person was behaving at the meeting is just contemporaneous with the meeting. So it's a reaction. It naturally flowed from the agenda discussion, which was proper, and it wasn't necessarily anticipated. So I think in this circumstances, by the chairman, in this circumstance, I said there were no violations. Now, the one thing I have to clarify with you all is the approval of the minutes and the corrective action measures, because there was a prior Board of Health complaint, and part of the idea was to repost the items that you had discussed and approve the minutes. So the question is, I think the minutes have not been approved at Monday's meeting, right? So we'll have to. They were approved at Monday, last Tuesday's meetings?
Oh, on last
They were
Tuesday.
not on the agenda.
Oh, not, when were they approved?
Oh, they were approved sometime.
I can check.
The previous.
Which minutes are we talking about?
So it is 6:29,
The only-
7:11, 8:15.
No,
The only minute approved was the 7-11.
7-11 now.
But yes, 7-11 is approved.
6:29.
No.
Oh, correct, I'm sorry.
6:29 is not, 8:15 is not, 8:28 is not,
We
8:29 is
received
not,
those at
9:05
that
is not.
meeting. So those
Sorry.
minutes of June 29th were received. Judy handed them over to us at that meeting of last Tuesday, which was September, what was it, September 19th.
They actually came in emails, some of them, quite a few of them.
I'm sorry, what?
I was just adding to, I guess, some individuals looked at them at the first time at that meeting, but they had arrived.
You had emailed them
drafts-
prior,
drafts.
but everyone received the meeting minutes on
It varies, and it varies for different reasons.
Okay, well,
What?
safe to say they haven't been approved, okay?
I
Yep,
just
safe
wanted
to
to
say.
say.
It's important of
No,
a
only
topic
one.
not to have clarity on
7-11 is the only one.
Office staff received them that night.
That night.
That night of the meeting.
but not prior to that in
I-
the email.
If there were emails, I didn't see it. I can check
This
right
goes
now.
back to that,
it doesn't-
right,
let's
right,
focus,
see,
let's
see,
focus.
see,
Yeah, I'm
this
sorry.
is
So-
what we say, this is public health, right? This
Well,
little gamesmanship, yeah.
Oh, let's see if I received it. I can tell you in a minute.
Okay.
Yep,
The-
You're
So
right.
6:29, the minutes have not been approved,
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
7:11, the minutes
Yeah.
have been approved.
Right.
Correct.
And were they approved at which meeting?
Last, no, 2 weeks. Right, no, 2 weeks ago.
Under protest, because it was not a unanimous decision.
It was at that Thursday meeting.
Okay, they were
wasn't
still
it?
approved.
Because July
Where we made
11th
Mary the
was.
chair that night, right?
Yeah.
14 September.
I think you're
14
right.
September
You're right.
14th,
So-
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And rest of them are not approved.
Right, September.
Okay. Right, that was the audio tape.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
8:15, 8:28, have they been approved?
No.
They're on tonight's agenda.
Right.
None of them have been approved,
Yep.
other than the 7-Eleven.
These are on tonight's agenda. I'm not sure if they are the correct dates, but that's
Yeah,
what
they're on
is
there.
there.
Number 10.
Number 10, good, they're on here. Okay, so
Okay, give 'em-
we
Give me back
will
my notes, thank you.
go forward with that, and hopefully, I'm making a note that we are going to get those done. So, and
Absolutely.
today is 9:25, so I will make that adjustment in my decision. But other than that, I'll entertain
What about the
any-
29th
The 29th?
of
is-
June?
No, not approved.
Yeah,
Not
I
approved.
have.
Did you write that down? I'm sorry.
I have underlined 8:15, 8:28, 8:29, and 9:5.
What about
And 629 too.
Oh, and
6:20.
6:29,
Yeah.
yes.
7-Eleven is the
That's for
only one that's approved.
tonight. 7-Eleven was approved on September 14th.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make that adjustment when 6:29 tonight, 6:29, 8:15, 8:28, 8:29, 9:5 are all going to be approved tonight.
9:14. Oh,
No,
it's
not tonight.
No, not, we don't have.
First time I ever saw them was tonight.
Wait, which one?
Which ones haven't you seen, John?
629. Well, yeah, that wouldn't be factual. I've seen them because they were handed to me when I came in, but.
Can you please read through them? Please?
Well, in council, I certainly don't want to take up your time, but this board agreed and took a vote that Laura would do the minutes.
Here we go,
These
again.
aren't Laura's minutes.
Well, if I remember correctly, was this the meeting that Laura wasn't in attendance? Right?
That's
What does
right.
that have to do with
It was a
anything?
Nyanza committee meeting.
What does that have to
so
do with
I wasn't
anything?
there.
It was a Nyanza committee meeting, not a Board of Health meeting.
Well,
No,
they were
it's a joint
confirmed
meeting.
at the Nyanza.
It did happen.
Did you
Board
have a
of-
quorum?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here.
Okay, let's hold on 6:29, okay?
And there's two
And-
paragraphs. Two paragraphs. We just had them ask questions.
Okay.
And John actually didn't arrive till 8:46, even though the meeting started earlier.
Also, go on, Ms. Council.
All right. We'll decide in a minute about, we'll move on to, does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
You said the discussion on the rail transit district flowed from the discussion of the agenda item, but at that time, the agenda item was not discussed, so it didn't flow from there. It did.
What agenda item?
The rail transit district agenda did not, it popped up in the beginning. It was added on to the agenda in the beginning, that particular
That's
went
not how
down.
it was alleged in the complaint, and I looked at the
I don't
agenda.
know, but that's how we
and-
did, but it didn't, we didn't pick up the agenda item and discuss it, and then it didn't come in, didn't flow from that, but it came up because it was there. That's all.
So, okay, so on the agenda, I'd like to respond.
The item was there in the agenda. It's not that I'm not disputing
Yeah.
that. The update was there, but when you said it flowed from the discussion about that item did not happen. It happened
I-
on
I-
its own.
I-
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I want to respond. So, I listened to the tape, or I think it was, this one was a video, if I remember correctly. And the agenda item was taken up as a consequence of Mr. Featherston making a complaint that, and I'm forgetting the developer's name,
David Estridge.
David Estridge had
No,
been
He's not the
emailing.
developer, he's the representative.
Yes.
Thorndike.
It was on the agenda though, and the item was properly there. And so it was taken out of order because Mr. Featherston complained regarding what he perceived, I'm not saying, what he perceived to be inaction by the chairperson.
I would respectfully disagree with that comment.
Okay, refresh my memory. How do you remember it?
The applicant who wanted to be heard had contacted the health agent, if I'm not mistaken,
That is
a couple
correct.
different times. He then called me, and this is just my recollection, he called me after his words, numerous attempts to get to the chair to either return a phone call or an email. I can't verify if that
Right.
did take place or not. I then reached out to the chair and said that this gentleman was trying to get in touch with him, and he took it upon himself to come on his own to the meeting, and out of respect for the fact that there was no common courtesy communication with him, I asked that we could take him out of order, so we could get him in and out, that's all.
Okay, so that's not so different from what I said.
No.
So,
May I comment?
so
Because
let
it
me-
involves me.
Yeah, and
I mean,
I
I
would
have a
like-
series of emails on this topic.
Yeah, but I don't want to get into who is right about whether or not there were emails or no emails.
Well,
To
it
me,
goes to
that's
the
not
intent, it goes to the
relevant.
intent of what's on the agenda and what I anticipated updates to be. And we violated, in my opinion, the open meeting law by having that vote and that discussion with him.
Your own words
Um,
were you were surprised to see him in
and-
the audience.
And it was
Your own
based
words.
upon the previous
All right.
emails, the previous 2 days, and that afternoon. So it's,
Judy, if you list an item in the agenda, you have to anticipate there's conversation about it. And I can't say that necessarily I like the tone of the conversation. I can't say that the criticism of the chair were productive or anything like that. But they were triggered by the fact that this man who had a property that was listed in the agenda item was in the audience. And naturally flowing from that was John's perception, I don't know what is fact or what is not fact, John's perception that he was not being heard. To me, that is not an open meeting law violation, having read the cases. So that's, I read the agenda as a person who did not create the agenda. And the point of the open meeting law is to say, is a person from the public going to read the agenda and anticipate that this is a topic that would encourage them to come to the meeting or not? And I don't think, even if it devolved to something else, it is off topic, in my estimation.
Thank you.
With the rail transit district, there are actually 2 wells, okay, for clarification. There was one that we were waiting for updates on, which were the results of the testing. David Estridge brought a proposal for approval of a second well. My intention by putting this was just for the information, to get more information as to what is going on at the rail transit district, specifically because of the July 11th meeting, where there was segments of this discussed by, I'm trying to look here, segments of this particular area mentioned by Mark Orem, specifically about the clubhouse and the pool and some other items. But yet, the rail transit district has other things going on, and I understand that they go on a tech review, which is, I guess, a private meeting of the town manager, that we aren't privy to what goes on there. So I was looking to make that a comprehensive what's going on with rail transit district, including the irrigation well, where we still potentially had questions concerning the test results. The emails beforehand with the developer's representative, clearly, I said it to him the day before, and I'm pretty sure it was the day before, but I have an email, that he needed to check with Mark Orem concerning if the information was, I don't remember the exact content of but before, something to the effect of, before we could actually put it on the agenda, we need to have the information in hand. He needs to check with Mark Orem, was what my email said. So the fact that he was there, I was totally surprised, totally caught off guard, thought that when he sat down to speak to us, he was going to give us updates, and it evolved into motions and
If that
what it
was your
evolved into.
intention, Judy, it wasn't clear from the agenda item that you crafted, and the way you crafted it, and having listened to the tape, outside perspective, I said the discussion encompassed the agenda item. And so what your internal thought process wasn't necessarily conveyed on the paper.
So irrigation well updates, Cirrus Apartments would be an application for a second well, a vote on it. So that's your perspective, is what I believe you're saying.
My perspective is, for the purposes of open meeting law, it was sufficiently described.
You're agreeing with her agenda.
So then the.
Yes.
So why are you arguing your own agenda with council? She's agreeing that you did it properly. Why, so you wrote the agenda, but yet you're questioning council to say that you didn't do it properly. Why would you do that?
My words just stand as I just stated them, what my intent was. So, I guess, does anyone else have a comment about the RTD well? Because there are other comments on other things I don't want to go on without anyone having the ability to fully vet that particular one.
Council, go on, please.
I finished. I wondered
Okay,
if anyone
so
else has any other questions.
Opioids?
Yes.
Cheryl Sabaros, when the Board of Health review of the Ashland Town Charter and proposed modifications, public health jurisdiction, the jurisdiction was in terms of the town charter and the proposed modifications. There was a secondary discussion. It's not clear to me how that relates to the town charter, how opioids and the proposed modifications. But once again, if someone interprets those words as such, that wasn't my intention as chair when I made that
Well,
agenda.
you can make that clear for your record what your private intention was.
I think there's something here about the intention of the chair, isn't there? No? But, okay. I just wanted to go on record saying that. And discussions
Whether or not
against.
a topic is reasonably anticipated by the chair, so an unlisted topic is reasonably anticipated by the chair, is different than whether or not an agenda item captures the subject matter.
Okay. I did not anticipate on number 2 that it would be a discussion of opioids. But then the third one, discussion of complaints against the chair. Once again, those are obviously anticipated. They happen at pretty much every meeting, they're complaints. And they've been happening ongoing in emails for the last 2 months.
Yeah, sure,
so
there
it's-
have absolutely been complaints against you when you were chairperson, Judy. I have to agree with you. The difficulty is in interpreting or in guessing when that would happen. And it happens based on the facts presented to the board at the moment. So similar to the next agenda item or a couple of agenda items down on the meeting of September 14th, certainly there were prior motions to remove you as chair. And what prompted those motions were the occurrences of the meeting. If the meeting had gone smoothly, there may not have been the same reaction. So it's facts on the ground before the board at the moment. The complaints are triggered by the reactions of perhaps you or perhaps another board member, but they weren't anticipated because can you imagine the agenda saying with each agenda item, knowing that there's difficulty in this board getting along and certainly discomfort with you as the chairperson, listing that as an agenda item, complaints against the chair, it wouldn't happen
It would
because
have gone
it's
into, it
triggered
would
by
have
the
gone into an
facts
executive
occurring
session.
at the board.
Let her
It
speak.
would have gone into an executive session, wouldn't that have?
No, what you go into executive session when you're discussing someone's character. You don't go into executive session when you're discussing someone's performance. That would be a violation.
Well, character is one of those things that certain people bring up all the time. And because it has been going on all of the time, it is a continuing.
I disagree.
Hearken.
I stand on my response. You can vote against it if you disagree with the response. That's your prerogative as an active board member. I stand on my response. My response is based on a person who did not prepare the agenda, just as a public person in the general public would read that agenda, looking at the meeting, the video, and saying, is that captured in the agenda item? And in my estimation, it was. Or relative to the complaints, it flowed from the occurrences of the meeting.
In your letter, I have a question. You say, to respond to this complaint, I have received information from Judith Margulies. What information have you received from me when you composed this letter?
That could have been a typo from another letter, Judy. I apologize. I don't think you and I spoke about this particular complaint. So that is a very valid correction, and I will strike that.
Which paragraph?
Second paragraph, it is the second line from the bottom of the second paragraph. I have received information from Judy Margulies. I
But
copy and
you'll
paste
keep-
the caption, yeah.
But you'll keep reviewed portions
I
of the
keep,
meeting?
yes, yeah. So I'll say, I have reviewed portions. I apologize for that.
So you reviewed only portions of it, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I went to the portions that were being discussed in the complaint,
Okay.
Not the entire meeting.
yeah.
I think it's time that we get a motion to accept the answer as written by the attorney. Could I have a motion?
So you're not allowing comment on these complaints, is that how you're doing this?
Yes.
Okay. Don't waste my time then. Have a good night.
I would appreciate, excuse me, Mr. I would appreciate if the chair would reconsider listening to public comment, citizens' participation on these complaints. It seems to have always been a particularly important issue with this board to listen to the citizens, and I would request that the chair reconsider her decision just now.
Is this a hearing?
I think we have hacked
This
this
isn't a
over.
hearing,
It's
is it?
not a hearing.
Well, thank you,
No,
Mr.
it
Oram,
isn't.
for your input, but I'm requesting it of the chairs. I'm requesting the chair to consider to have citizens' participation.
Well, it's not citizens' participation. I mean,
It's not a public hearing.
I think
I
that's.
filed the complaint.
So,
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just, again, new procedure, it's the first time in many complaints, many which the board has been found to violate, even after council suggested you hadn't. So this is the first new procedure where it was even suggested there would be no input. So I'm just not familiar with the change. But having listened to this complaint, I filed a complaint, filed it for specific reasons. There's two sets of reasons there. One is agenda-related, the other one is regarding a continued failure to get minutes approved. They're still not approved. These are, complaints are filed for a process reason. Complaints are filed so the public is aware, so the board can discuss and improve its process so complaints don't happen a second time. Minutes have been filed at least two times previously. Board's been warned, you're still not getting your minutes done. So what that tells me is that these discussions that have happened in the last two complaints, which you didn't admit, and they went to the AG, you haven't put a process in place that's remediating the problem so that the minutes get approved on time, which is what I'm asking for, very simply, that you get
I
a
understand
process
that,
to
Steve.
get the minutes approved, and that you
When
tell
have to
the
spend
AG,
hours
and that you
reviewing
tell
open
the
meeting
AG,
law complaints, it's tough to get
So-
those processes in place,
Well-
to be honest with you.
well,
I mean,
with
could you
res-
file
with res-
any more?
I will file some more if
Okay.
necessary,
That's fine.
Ron.
I'm just
But the
saying-
point is very
But Mr.
simple.
Morgan, to my comment to you last week, and
please let him finish.
I'm having a conversation. That's what people do, they converse. My point to last week, and you didn't, I understand and I respect that you want open and clean government. I do too. But to Ron's point, how many more open meeting law violations is, come in, let's have a cup of coffee, let's sit down.
I'm happy to sit down.
What's the productivity of this? What's the productivity of this? Because it's just decisive, it takes up town resources, it takes up town. I agree with you. We can do a better job of doing minutes. We're going to talk about an open meeting law complaint that you filed against me because I'm frustrated that we can't serve minutes. But can't we talk about this rather than
I'm happy
paper
to sit
people?
down with you and have a
Paper
coffee
people?
anytime you want. I just can't talk about the subject with 3 of the 5 members. So I'm aware that I don't want to create a violation on your
And we
behalf,
don't- and
but
we
I'm
don't
happy
either.
to discuss anything you want to discuss. My phone rings from people that want to talk about any number of topics in town. I'm happy to talk to people.
But would you
The
agree
point-
that this is not productive?
You used the word decisive. I don't think you meant decisive. I think you meant something else. But I'd like
What
to
do you
think
think
at
I meant?
I'd like to think at some point it will be decisive, and the board will actually take some action, because what's been done so far has not been taking action. What's been done is denial and no action. And so what I'm looking for is remedial action as anticipated by the regulation, where the board discusses, admits the failure, discusses specific steps that will prevent a reoccurrence of the same failure. And then the specific actions that are needed to address the public's not getting the information in the first place, like putting it back on a future agenda and having a substantive discussion. So what's missing here is three things: admission, a corrective action, a discussion, a substantive discussion on how to improve the process and stop these complaints from happening. Not tell me not to file them, but actually put a procedure in place to stop the behavior from reoccurring. And then what specific action are you going to take before the AG tells you to take it 10 months from now? And we all waste our 10 months
So
waiting.
in reality,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that what you're saying is not true, especially with what John said, but you know how this board functions.
I
You've
do.
been so you've been around this town long enough. So you know we have enough issues that we're attempting to try to deal with mediation and trying to get
I do.
our act together. So all we're saying is that it's not, I don't feel it's productive to have, now we have a meeting,
Okay.
if you look at the agenda items on here, there's a majority of them that are open meeting law violations that I realize
Right.
you were annoyed last time when we couldn't get to your stuff.
Twice
Right,
now.
you walked
This
out
is
and
the
you
third
said,
time.
"Thanks for wasting my time."
Yeah.
Yet, if you complain about wasted resources of the town, we're spending resources of the town to have the attorney potentially file an answer or response to your open meeting law complaints that
Right.
you still feel aren't even valid, but then we'll get more complaints, and you already know that there's reasons why we can't get the minutes approved, because the members, right, so you're shaking your head.
I am.
Right, so.
I'm not
why do
laughing,
you
I'm
do
shaking
that?
my head, though, because I think that,
Okay.
to be respectful to you, you just spent however much time when I walked in the room, you're still talking about mediation, great. Over a year ago, there was a meeting in the library, I got up and I said, I'm going to file a public documents request for anything going on with mediation if you do it, and then I'm going to file an open meeting law complaint, because you can't have confidentiality unless it's in a public setting, and yet people have spent a year trying to reignite that whole discussion and have it come up again, and, you're inviting a complaint because you're insisting on doing something that is obviously not a proper process. So if you would get the minutes done, if you would focus on corrective action in your discussion, instead of arguing about whether council got the letter right or not, this would be a more productive thing
Well,
from
she
my
wants to
point of
answer
view.
your complaint. So.
She does, and the answer could be, this happened, the topics weren't clear, the board understands that, the board has done the following X number of things to make sure minutes get done on time, and because this wasn't done clearly, we'll put it on the next agenda and do it again. It's very simple. That could be the answer to this complaint. But instead, we're denying the complaint, we're arguing about whether it was clear, and then we're taking nothing in the letter about corrective action, nothing in the letter about remediation. So what's been done?
So you're questioning what the attorney is writing in her perception of what she saw from the minutes
So,
and the tapes.
so her perception, not being in the meeting, is different from my perception. I disagree with most of what she said. I understand, I've taken a lot of time, and I'm sure you all understand, I've taken a lot of time to read a lot of cases and become familiar with the topic. I'm not going to get everyone right, but I think at this point, about 2/3 of the ones I've sent to the AG, over the attorney's exception, have been found to be valid. Frankly, the number in the appeals court on cases that go to appeals court is maybe 10%.
It must be really tough being right all the time, Steve.
I don't want to be right. I'd like to see corrective actions taken.
Seems like a
If
fighter.
you take the corrective actions and you stop the conduct, just today, I got a response from the clerk saying there were 264 pages or 268 pages of email from board members to distributions on this board in the last 30 days. That's a lot of pages, 9 pages a day. Now, I don't know what those pages are yet, because now I got to argue about whether I have to pay for pages that are like easy to forward in 5 minutes, because somebody thinks it takes hours to give me those pages. But the fact is, this board is sending emails to each other with opinions and all kinds of stuff. I filed a complaint in early September. It's on the agenda here for tonight. Maybe you'll deny you're doing that and claim the emails don't express opinions, and that's okay. The corrective action is obvious. You stop using that distribution except for very limited things. And then there aren't 263 pages, and everything isn't done out of the public eye, and then I'm happy. I mean, I'm not making the rules, I'm just trying to get people to change what
Yes,
they're
John.
doing. Yeah.
I could just ask, and
Yeah.
it's not an argumentative question, I'm really just trying to have dialogue with you. Let's just say hypothetically. Council says, we screwed up, we did everything wrong. How does that,
So-
okay, so.
so you don't have to say
you
everything
lost that
wrong, you
one,
just have to
but
say
then
it
you
was
still got
unclear.
all these, so you say that you, and like I said, I respect what you're trying to do here, but I just don't understand what the motive is that, okay, we're all human, we all make mistakes, and I don't think anybody does it maliciously to hurt the town. But let's just say that we say we screwed up. Are you saying that you're gonna stop sending email complaints, or?
Look,
Because
look,
we're
I'll
gonna
stop.
make mistakes.
I
because
will stop.
We're dedicated volunteers here who got on this board, even if we don't like each other or agree with each other, we all got in here to try to help the town. There's no scandal from this complaint. I don't see, like, we're not moving funds, we're not addressing public health issues, we're just, maybe, because we're tired. Me, I've been up since 4:30 this morning, I haven't had dinner, and I'm here. I'll make a mistake or three, along the line, because I get emotional, I
Sure.
care and stuff. So what's the end result, I guess, is what I'm saying.
So I was at
If
the,
we admit that
I
we're
was,
human,
I was at the
what happens?
I was at the Conservation Board.
Right.
Just, what, yesterday? I know KG was there. And they were doing their minutes wrong, and they weren't putting the list of documents in their minutes. Very different reception. I don't even think they bothered council. They said, yeah, you know what, we know we gotta do this, we're gonna do it. I asked them, to, to correct some of the ones retrospectively, because things are still in front of the town.
I actually wrote that
Okay,
decision, too.
well, I haven't seen it because you continue to not provide me the decisions that you're proposing because I'm not a member of the board and I have to go chase them. But,
I provide to my client.
I understand. And you're familiar with, hearing practices that are typical in most of these kind of settings. So usually people get the documents on both sides. Now, so you don't have to, but usually people get the documents on both sides, especially from attorneys. But, the point is, the same thing I've been asking for a year. Acknowledge, put some action in place that's reasonably going to stop what's going on, and then fix the problem. Those are the three elements of one of these complaints. And if you do that, and I know, Ron, you and I had this discussion months ago, just do that, and then it never goes to the AG's office because you correct it yourself. This is a standard continuous improvement process that goes on all over the world nowadays. It's done everywhere. You identify, admit, and then you correct,
Okay. To address your admit, it's clear to me that there was bullying going on about the estrich thing, okay?
That wasn't what I complained about.
Well, I understand that. I understand that, but from the emails, it was, why haven't you done this, Madam Chair? Why are you doing things wrong again? When in fact, this was not an urgent situation. He could have come back 2 months from then, or 2 weeks from then, or 5 days from that moment. But we, as a board, put ourselves in this position because we allow ourselves being led into these things, which is what happened with the RTD discussion. That could have waited. It was, the email thread from John Featherston to me documents it. And also to David Estridge, from me to him. I responded to him. It's all there clearly. And the fact that we got led into that in a meeting was just wrong.
This is not a public hearing. We're here to discuss the open meeting laws and get them settled, get the minutes taken care of so that Steve can sleep at night, not worrying about us.
I'm not worrying, and you're not the only board, that I'm
You're a busy boy.
reviewing this. The AG's office provides a checklist. It's on the website, you can download it and use it, but I don't see anyone in this board using the checklist and actually making any effort at all to see compliance happen. There's a checklist there, it's provided no charge by the people enforcing. If someone would just download it and start using it and checking it off, you'd probably have fewer violations. These are very easy things that could be done. Another thing that could easily be, easily done, instead of retraining. I've asked for retraining repeatedly. I know the town did some training last year, but there hasn't been. I've asked for this over and over again. Never have I seen a letter from council admitting they need retraining. It's, another thing that I've suggested, using a third-party timekeeper. If the board is dysfunctional, I think your resources would be much better spent having an independent management of your meetings, not often secrecy somewhere where it's not
In like
proper.
11 minutes, you've talked.
Okay. Is that too
We
many?
need to, yes, we need
Okay.
to get work
But
done.
council represents us.
So you don't want the suggestions, I guess you cut me off in
No,
the middle of
that's
a
not-
constructive suggestion
That's not,
that will
Steve, what
prevent a
I'm
complaint.
doing. I'm trying to handle your complaints.
Okay.
That are on the agenda for tonight.
So what corrective action are you taking, and what improvement of your process are you taking to make the next complaint on the same basis not
We,
happen?
excuse me.
Well, as soon as we can get together potentially and facilitate things, then maybe we can do that.
But I think what we need to do is start having our minutes done within 2 weeks after after the meeting. There's no reason we get them in that soon. We should be able to review them and have them at the next meeting.
I would
I mean, this
recommend that we go
going for
to a
months
more
is
succinct
ridiculous.
process so that they're not overwhelmingly complex and incorrect and do not represent what actually goes on at the meetings, because that is what we have here. And I put that on Michael Herbert, because he supervises, directs, and controls all town employees.
Yes, KG.
I know you all spoken on the subject. I believe the process stipulated by the Attorney General to resolve an open meeting law complaint provides a provision there to make sure that it is resolved internally first, and if it dissatisfies the complainant, then it goes to further review. So the first step is the one that we need to take on so that it can save our time, probably improve our process, our handling of things. So if we can work on that end, that would be more
I
helpful
mean, up
than.
until the last year, we never had a problem with minutes. They were done after the meeting, and they were usually the following meeting. They were approved.
Mary,
This
let's,
going back
let's-
months is not
let's-
good. We've got to
let's-
get by it.
Let's
There
not-
have been
let's-
two,
Mary, let's not dial the clock
That's-
backwards because
because
I'm
that's
not
not
don't
correct.
trying to.
don't
I'm
make
trying
me
to say we need to
don't
move
make my
forward.
brain to think about data. I'll come back with some information. I don't want to do that. Let's move forward. That's important. Okay.
And that's what I'm
But I
asking
agree
for,
with
is
you,
corrective
Let's
action.
move forward,
Yeah.
but based on what you're, to your point here, if the board agrees with council here tonight, the board has decided this. Am I correct? Or do you have a different opinion on
I
it?
have a different. I think we should probably
I'm just,
accept it and move on, and then clean up the record right here and finish it
Yep,
off, rather
I
than
agree.
just going
Right.
to another step to the AG's office.
that's not what I asked though.
I know you didn't. That's what I would prefer. So that way it's done and finished, and then we
I
can
understand.
probably
I understand.
wrap all of these 5 or 6 complaints that we have on the table.
That'd be
All right,
great.
can we move on to the next one, Kate?
Sure, and I'd
Do
like
we
to.
want to address them one at a time, or? Because I don't have the mental capacity to remember.
Well,
Yeah.
unless,
So,
is there one that you feel that we really need to address?
This one we have to address, but the one thing that concerns me is the fact that the minutes have to be approved.
Yes.
And it's part of the response.
Yes.
Right.
So, if we could hold on this and even just move to the minutes if we think we can get
Okay.
it done in an expedited fashion.
All right. The minutes for June 29th. We've all had a chance to review them?
A couple things, and
Okay,
one of them is very minor, because it's a birth defect. My name is misspelled,
okay.
and I did not arrive at 8:46.
And there's also there's also an error in the time. The meeting was called to order at 6:45, but one's at 6:35 and one's at 6:45, so that is incorrect. I was not at this meeting, however.
Council's eyes are gonna roll out of her
What
head,
time
but
what time did you arrive, John? That was the best, I think, of the memory of individuals who were there.
what individuals were there?
The other individuals who were there.
You quizzed other people about the time I arrived?
What time did you arrive, John?
You produced the minutes, maybe you should make them factual.
So
Is there
I would-
anything else that needs to be changed in these
I would
minutes?
suggest we leave 8:46 there.
was there for that meeting. and I
Yes, you
bring
were.
it up, I was here. I can say, oh, wow, who was there, if it's okay to.
I did arrive tardy, but it was not 8:46.
Do you have a time?
But you're never later than 7:30.
Thank you.
She's saying 8:46.
Yeah, I think it was 7:46 upstairs, or 6:46 upstairs, or next.
This was June 29th.
Different meeting.
It was in here, PC.
Any other changes that need to be made?
So far we have John's, the typo of his name under members present and the approximate
And the
start time
times are
is
incorrect.
6:45. 8:46, KG, do you have a memory, or Ron, do you have a memory? I recall it being quite late toward the end of the meeting.
All right, can I have a motion to accept the meeting, accept the minutes as written?
Not as
Or
written,
with
no.
corrections, sorry.
That's amended? Can you move that?
With
Do I have a
the eight-
second?
With no 8:46, or what is your?
Well, 8:46.
What's that?
8:46 is the time that we have, and I know it was the time, that's
You
all.
were the KJ, you were the clerk that one.
Sure, I've been the clerk for the board,
Yeah,
Any
you-
other
ever since they
comments?
elected me.
So.
I have a
uh,
motion on the
I'll make a
floor.
recommendation that we just, that I arrived past 7:30, because I don't know if it was 7:35 or if it was 7:40, but it wasn't.
It was, no, it was much, much later.
Okay.
And 8:46 is what I wrote down.
Well, that must make it right.
So,
I made a motion
you made a motion with which corrections?
with.
Yes, with corrections.
Except
With
that-
which corrections?
It's
I'm
been
asking for
seconded.
specific.
Except the
I'm
8:46.
looking for a vote. All
Yeah.
those in favor?
I'm sorry, it's not
Did-
clear, the motion. I'm
The
asking for it
8:46
to be repeated. If
My-
Laura could repeat it, that'd be
My
fine.
motion is to keep the 8:46 with it and approve the minutes.
And the two typos, John.
Yeah,
and
typos,
6:45.
Those doesn't need to be
Minutes as
I-
amended, vote.
I second that motion.
We're just finishing up, because it's
With-
the first time I've had to see him. I've asked for him for, 3 months. It's the first time I've.
So do you want time?
I'm almost there.
If it's one time, you can take some time. So, we don't want to rush you.
Was this meeting recorded by WACA?
Nope, it was not.
I didn't think so, no.
Nope, it was not.
Town of Ashland, WACA-TV Video Recordings Incorporated is part of the meeting minutes.
Okay,
You were
that's
not
another
here.
typo. Thank
You
you.
were
How's that a
not here.
typo?
They were not here.
My name being misspelled is a typo. This is not factual. There's a difference between a typo and fact. So I would ask that we strike that from the minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And Madam Chair, if you may, and your eyes are gonna roll, but this board agreed that Laura Clifford would generate all minutes. It didn't say that if she was present or if she wasn't. It's very common practice inside this building that people draft minutes from people who aren't in the room at the time. So
There was
I don't
no-
understand why we're going against the policy. I think we should approve it, because of the timeliness of it, but once again, why have standards if we're not going to?
There was
Right.
no staff.
Well, they
at
will,
the meeting.
they will be changing shortly with
There was no staff.
getting things back on track.
Thank you.
So all those in favor of accepting the meeting's minutes as rewritten?
Aye.
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 Five.
Just for clarification, Laura, could you tell us what, so it's changing John's name, 6:45, and eliminating the recording at the last part. Is that correct?
Because I don't have that.
Is that what you have?
She wasn't there.
I
She
only
doesn't have
the
the-
PDF. I
You
can't
don't
make
have a
the
copy
change
of
on
these in
PDF.
your hand?
That's all your changes, not
She
hers.
said she had a PDF. I can't make changes.
No, you can't make electronically,
she
that's
never
what you
makes
mean.
No,
one.
those are
Okay.
yours, KG.
No, I
We've
can't.
asked.
They're yours, KG. not
Okay.
hers.
Moving on. August 1st meeting.
Madam Chair, just for clarity,
Yes,
so Laura indicated she can't, this is on a PDF, so unless otherwise sent to us in a Word document of some format or of that nature, it will have to be done by the author of the minutes.
okay.
If I could actually suggest that request to have things in a Word document has been made by at least 2 members of this board for 2 years, coming from Laura, and it's rather interesting that when the tables are flipped, so I would request that always be the policy on all drafts, that they be sent in Word
Madam Chair,
format.
again, if I may, point of
Yes.
order, that's not on the agenda. If any member has ideas, suggestions, we're going to be breaking the open meeting law again. You know,
Again?
interjection constantly
3 months.
tonight has broken several items that maybe Mr. Morgan should be paying attention to members that are doing what just happened. You know, and I'm not asking for public discussion, but Madam Chair, that indeed
Thank
needs
you,
to be an
Mark.
agenda item.
Thank you, Mark.
And again, it can be addressed, and it's been addressed before, but it's
There's your
a
boss,
little-
Mark, there's your boss, maybe
I'm not-
Michael, come
I'm
on
not
in,
finished,
sit down.
Madam
Sit
Chair,
in,
it's,
Madam Chair, can we?
Madam Chair, I'm just
Quiet,
trying to,
Judith.
Can we show the town manager some respect?
just trying to state that that's been a policy of this board for many reasons, and I will discuss that when that meeting occurs, if the chair so wishes to put it on the agenda.
Okay.
And I'll explain it to you if you need to down the road.
All
But
right, for
Madam
the,
Chair, I mean, we just have to be perfectly clear here. It's almost 3 months since this meeting happened, that we're approving this minute, and we can't get buy-in from the former chair that she's gonna make simple edits. And we need mediation? Come on, come on. If I was the agent.
Wait a minute, can't
if I
get
was the
buy-in,
agent- if I
John.
was
That's
the
not
AG,
correct. That's
I
not
would
what I
fine us for
said.
this, rightfully so, because it took us
I
3
voted
months-
for it,
3
John.
months to do it, and we can't do a simple edit?
John, I'm for those simple edits.
Yeah, but you haven't. You haven't.
okay,
I understand,
Let's go
but you
through.
haven't.
all right,
Here he
August
goes.
1st.
Yeah, these facts
Everyone's
work
had
in.
a chance to review the minutes?
For the record, I'm going to vote against adopting these because there are multiple errors in them. And the time commitment that it involves to have to re-listen to an audio tape and to make those corrections is overwhelmingly burdensome from the perspective of an individual member. And I request that everywhere that my name is in here, that be struck out, because they do not represent my participation in the meeting.
Anything else?
I don't understand.
I would like that statement to be part of the record as my objection to these minutes.
You chaired this meeting.
Yeah.
So am I understanding you correctly, that you don't want, you chaired this meeting, but you do not want your name listed in the minutes?
I want my name to be listed correctly in the
As what?
context. This is a verbalized representation of what went on. It does not follow town council's recommendations as to how to format minutes. It is something that is much more verbose, selective in how it's presented, and it truly does not represent the actual content.
What specific
What
issues do
specific?
you have?
As I said,
Could you just reference one? Just one.
take me hours
Just one.
to re-look at the, I have notes on another copy. I
Could we
don't
just
have
do
them
one?
here.
Just so we could not make this mistake
I'm
going
making a
forward?
general statement that I wish to have in the
So
minutes.
in other words, no.
Of this meeting. I believe that the
So I
format.
read them as well, and I thought it was a relatively decent representation
Thank you.
without getting every single word of everything.
Well, when it comes to certain things like the actual motions, those have to be absolutely correct for the open meeting law, and also the discussion
So
that
you're
either
saying that they're not
supports,
recorded properly?
either supports or does not support the arguments must also be represented correctly.
So what specifically are you saying?
Just give me one example. One example.
What are you saying?
What you're asking me to do is to take 8 or 9 minutes.
No, I'm asking for
and
one
listen to
example.
3-hour
One example.
tapes of this kind of nonsense. I'm making one statement, I wanted in the,
Nonsense. You chaired a meeting that was nonsense?
I
we'll go with
I
that.
made my statement, I'm requesting that it be put in the minutes.
Okay.
So-
With
So you're
Judy's,
saying Laura
with Judy's
specifically-
request to be removed from the meeting minutes, does anyone else have a problem with them?
I have a huge problem with that. With that.
I
Yeah.
understand that,
Right,
John.
yeah.
But you have a problem with the minutes?
I think they're excellent.
Okay.
I'd like to reserve the right to amend it at a later time, because I do find some errors there, but I don't have.
We always have that right, right?
I don't,
Yeah.
I
You can
understand,
always
but I'd
amend
like
it
to make sure that this is recorded
Right.
here, saying that I reserve the
Okay.
right to amend it, because
All right, so
do see
I have
some issues.
I have a motion to accept the minutes as corrected. with Judith's request to be withdrawn from the minutes?
That was a part of the motion.
No, no, no.
I d- no one made a
that
motion.
shouldn't be a part
That
of the
was
motion.
not-
No one
not-
made a
That was-
motion.
that was
It is
the-
it's a statement, as I had stated.
That she,
That statement.
I'm
she
request-
just wants for the record, she just wants for the record for
Her name,
Laura
okay.
to capture in the minutes that she is objecting to the minutes on the basis of that, on the basis of her statements being misrepresented.
Okay,
And I'm sure Laura will capture that word for word.
all right.
I'll make a motion to clarify, if I may, Madam Chair.
Yes,
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from the August 1st, 2017 Board of Health meeting as presented.
Could you add the fact that it was the right to amend it, please?
No, because you always have that right to amend it, as council just acknowledged.
do I have a second?
To approve these minutes
Yes.
with those, I second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm
Aye.
opposed because my right
Aye.
to amend is not included.
3-2, Laura? Okay, moving on. August 8th.
August 8th?
That's what
I
it
don't
says.
believe I have August 8th. If I'm,
That was the Nyanza committee meeting,
Oh, that was the Nyanza meeting?
another, yeah.
oh, where are those? Do we have copies?
No, I don't have them.
So this was a Board of Health meeting at the Nyanza Committee. There was a quorum? Is that right? Who was there? Judy, were you there?
I don't recall.
Okay.
She
I would
was.
have to look at my notes,
She was.
and I don't have my notes
Because I'm a member
with
of the
me.
committee.
Because you were there in your capacity as Nyanza Committee.
And it wasn't on the agenda for Nyanza to have Board of Health there.
So was there an agenda then?
Irrespective of Nyanza's agenda, is this when you were still chairperson? Yes.
Yes.
And did you post a meeting agenda, do you know?
I would have to look at,
I can tell you, I have it on my
Okay.
computer.
She did, she said it was a concurrent meeting with Diane, I remember looking at it.
Yeah, what day?
I have notes, but
August 8th.
they've
August
decided that they don't want my
Do we have that in our?
formatting and,
Who's that?
Oh, it's-
So you didn't prepare the minutes?
don't-
they were prepared.
They were prepared, okay.
I believe that they were prepared, weren't
That's
they?
good.
So we have a copy
Didn't
of
we
this?
have those?
Distribute the
I cannot tell you. The
It's
board
on the
has, the
website.
board is going in a different direction with minutes.
It's hearsay.
What? If you forgot to send them, that's one thing, but I don't think this board has seen them. It's okay if you didn't send them, but I don't believe this board has seen them, right?
No, I haven't
Could you
seen.
just send the minutes on to the board and they can approve it at the next meeting?
Have you seen,
I don't recall it, Judy.
I don't recall either.
Was
That
there,
my mind has been
But I would
completely engrossed with
suggest
the
that,
OML all these
that the board take,
I say table, you get an
Point of
answer.
order, minutes to this board, who has been warned by the AG, are not a laughing matter.
Right.
This is a serious issue. It's
There was
hu-
an
and
agenda
so even to
posted.
Mr., I guess
There
I'm
was an
agreeing with
agenda
Mr. Morgan,
posted?
this is a serious
Do
issue.
you have it, Laura?
And we cannot be callous like this with this.
It's on the
Okay.
clerk.
There was an agenda posted and it was online.
there was an agenda posted.
Laura
and
has
there
it.
were minutes created to the best of your recollection.
I
Judy.
cannot tell you that. I did
Well,
not come
there's no sense
prepared,
in-
I did not come prepared for minutes because I was told
And
that
it's hearsay.
staff would be doing these.
Anyway.
Hearsay.
So,
Okay, so, all right, let's just move on, okay? Let's move on from this.
So that's a
August
question
15th.
mark to
To
question
the
mark to
next
fill.
one,
That's a
August
question mark
15th.
Let's move to August 15th.
Was there any objections to these? Any problems with them?
I wanted to make the same statement that the contents of these appears not to be accurate, and so I will be voting against for the same reasons.
Can you tell your intent to vote on something before it's even been presented? Isn't that an ethics violation? Telling people how you're gonna vote before it's been presented?
I guess you'll have to check on that, John.
I'm asking counsel.
They're in draft.
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
When somebody says they're going to vote before the vote is even discussed or motioned, isn't that
She's-
prejudging a vote?
No, she's reviewing the minutes. She's making a statement of her concern.
Okay.
And indicating how she's feeling she's gonna vote. She hasn't voted yet.
Right.
It's fine. We don't
Okay.
have to be overly formalistic.
Okay.
But if a chairman tries to make that, is that ethics?
We don't have to listen
If
to
a
the
chairman
audience.
has asked that question, that's the citizen's concern.
I don't know what you mean, I'm
If the
sorry.
chairman says in that same way she said it, as a chairman, before the vote is taken, before the discussion, is that an ethics violation?
She is voicing her concern that she is currently reading the minutes and she doesn't believe them to be accurate, which is her prerogative as a member.
But I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
back-
if the person with the chairman doing that. Doesn't
You don't hear the
no matter what-
Madam Chair.
It doesn't
Ma- Madam Chair, I'm ready
Just
to
let
make a
them-
motion to approve this minutes. Is that okay to do it, or do you want to wait for that some more?
No, I would like a motion to approve the minutes.
I move that we approve this minutes, subject to the condition and reserve the right to amend it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Madam Chair, this was a meeting that was difficult for me to attend in the first place. It's now 9:45. I understand the meeting's scheduled for 10 o'clock, but unfortunately, I need to leave at this time because of my personal commitments, and so I just wanted the board members to know that
That's fine.
I will be leaving at this point.
Okay, the minutes for August 28th.
Somebody walk her out. Is there any, Mark, remind me.
Why would I need someone to walk me out?
No, she's in the know, she can do it herself.
Okay. Start from
the 28th?
just looking out for the fellow.
The 28th?
No, he's
No,
just.
it's not.
That was intentionally, that was trying to be nice. That was
Are
trying to
you
be
kidding me?
nice, but she doesn't.
I'm sorry?
Oh, okay.
I haven't done the 28th or 29th.
Right, I was
Come
supposed to
on.
do, right, but I need a copy of.
That's never happened at a board meeting before.
Because you don't have a copy of it, but.
Oh,
Right.
like a.
That was nice. It is.
I gotta talk to Michael
That was
about
nice.
this, 'cause I was audited.
Yeah, I was gonna do it. Yeah, you don't have to do that.
8:28, are we,
Oh, we
sending
got,
those?
we got two more,
So
right?
I'll
You don't-
send you the video.
Yeah, if you can send me the
with
video.
WACA-TV.
We've got September 5th and September 14th.
You're gonna do-
Yep.
I volunteered to do it.
No, you still have minutes.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
We still have minutes.
Oh, okay,
8:28.
8:28, right?
No, 8:28,
8:28, we
Ron
don't.
is going to write, he did not know that they had not been done, so he is
No,
going
I
to.
did, I just did not, I didn't have
Right,
the,
The tape.
the tape to be able to do it. So I will make sure that they are done
for the next
for
meeting.
the, I'll do it this week.
Whatever.
We'll be
pattern.
twins.
Lisa?
I'll take my sweater off.
I'm Kate. Why do I keep calling you
Second time.
Lisa?
I don't know, I'm taking these compliments all over the place.
Ron will have those meetings ready for us for the next meeting, which would be next Tuesday, the 3rd,
Tuesday the 3rd,
to be approved at that time.
okay.
But can we just plow through these?
And that's the
5th
28th and
14th?
the 29th.
The 28th and the 29th.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Then we move on to August 31st.
I don't have those either.
Do we have that one?
I don't think there was a quorum. You guys met as a Nyanza committee meeting, and I think.
That was a Nyanza meeting again?
I think there wasn't a quorum.
I
Is
know
that
I
right?
wasn't.
I was not in town. I left that day.
Yes, I
Right,
don't think.
there
I
there
don't
was
know
any-
what
I was
happened.
at
I
the
couldn't
Nyanza
attend.
committee as a member, and then Judy was in the audience, but no other members of the
So
board.
if
were
there's
there.
no
No meeting.
quorum,
Right.
there's no meeting.
Okay,
Right, there was no.
so that one is
Okay.
And that was which date, I'm sorry?
the
31st
31st of
31
August.
August.
31st, okay, good, it wasn't listed anyway.
Okay, September 5th.
Mhm, It was listed. It is listed.
Well, there was a Nyanza meeting, but there wasn't a quorum of the board at that meeting.
Because KG was out of town.
Yeah, 31
Yeah, and I-
August.
And Ron
And I
was
wasn't there.
And you weren't there. I was there, yeah. I'll make a motion that we accept the September 5th, 2017 Board of Health meeting minutes as presented.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I-
Four.
No, wait. I say no for it because I know there's a lot of errors in it, so I object for it.
A lot of
Okay.
errors.
Yes.
Can you just say what the rest we can
I will-
rectify them here?
I'll bring it up.
All right, September 14th.
I'll make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes for the Ashland Board of Health from the September 14th, 2017 meeting as presented.
Do I
I
have a
would-
second?
I will reserve the right to amend it and second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4.
Okay, good. So,
September 14th.
oh, sorry.
We just
Yeah, that's
did
what
that.
you did.
Hey, we're on a roll here.
We just did that.
You're gonna approve them twice?
Do them again, do them
We'll-
again.
I have
we'll do-
September 14th here.
I thought
just
we
did
did
that.
that was 4-0 and the 5th was 3-1, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm
is that
sorry.
correct?
Yeah.
And what it was, we didn't have a meeting the 31st, and that's why it threw off the...
Okay.
3-1 with my objection to be noted on the record, please.
All right, so that takes care of all of our outstanding minutes.
That's great.
No, not all of them.
No?
No, we still have.
Oh, we still have the two
Right,
that
we still
Ron
have-
is gonna take care of.
Right.
Okay,
And if we could then just return quickly to my response to the open meeting law complaint dated 8/31 regarding the 8/29 meeting. I will make the amendments to note when they were approved this evening, as well as the one set that were approved on September 14th.
okay.
And the typo.
And the fact that 8/28 and 8/29 are to be written and approved
October 3rd.
October 3rd.
And then you need
And the
to
8th of
strike,
August,
strike that
too.
you got information
And
from
the 8th of
Judy.
And I already struck that, yes.
And the 8th of August one, to be confirmed.
So I will make a motion
The
that
8th
we.
of August wasn't listed.
Hmm?
I don't think he complained about the 8th of August
Yeah,
for some
it's-
reason. One second, I'm so
Is it?
sorry.
Please, take your time.
Okay.
That's on your minutes, but I don't think it was listed in
Okay,
his
all right,
complaint.
okay.
Wait, let me double check quick before we leave that. I don't,
What
oh,
are we
et
on?
cetera, it says et cetera, so the 8, tell me again, KG, they
That needs
weren't
to be,
approved?
that needs to be approved, not
Because
been-
those are the ones, Judy, at the Nyanza committee.
Yeah.
Okay, need to be approved. And I will reach out to Judy to either coordinate a tape for you, Laura, or ask Judy to provide the minutes that she had already prepared to the board. And we'll shoot for October 3rd on that one.
But
Okay.
what about the amendments?
The amendments to what?
If they're in PDF. I
If
could
if they're in
rewrite 'em.
PDF form, Laura can't make them. And we accepted the minutes with the edits.
Yep,
And there was some conversation back and forth, well, you know, like she'd been asking for that for 2 years. But if we don't get that, then they're not accurate minutes. So I'm just,
yeah.
I'm just asking. That's
Yeah,
why we have counsel.
You can do a.
So I'll make a
hand
motion that we
edit. I mean, it's gonna
we
look
inst-
strange,
we
but
instruct Laura Clifford to make hand edits so we can,
That's perfect.
Okay,
so I need a
That will
second.
easily accomplish it.
Need a second?
we need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
4-0.
So that makes that clean.
That's clean, and I will make those amendments, and then, but I need a motion from you whether or not to approve this as amended.
I will make a motion that we approve town council's recommendation from the 8/31 open meeting law complaint for a meeting held on August 29th, 2017, with the discussed amendments.
Is that your complaint, is there discussion on that complaint?
We discussed it tonight,
Or is that
earlier.
what we already discussed?
That was
That's the one we already
discussed
discussed.
tonight.
That's the only one we've gotten to so far.
Yep, that was the one we discussed tonight.
You second the motion? Any further discussion?
So I have stated my position that the council statement that it flowed through to the
Okay.
representative, this is not
Okay. All right, so
what happened, so I am
I'll
not
call
in
for a
favor.
vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Folks, just because of the
3-1.
fact that it is not flowed through that statement.
Okay.
Okay. And we took care of that, Mark, you want to give us a quick rundown? You got, what, 5 minutes?
Sure.
Do we
Oh,
have
wait,
more?
7 minutes.
Can we do
Oh,
you
I'm
mind,
sorry.
can we do a couple other open meeting?
I thought we did
documents?
them all.
We don't
I'm
have
sorry.
time.
No,
No,
no.
no,
We
we've
don't
only
have
I'm
done
sorry.
time.
one.
We don't have time.
I'm sorry, Kate.
No, it's okay.
We don't
It's
have
okay.
time.
I don't mean to step on your
We got
toes.
7 minutes.
How are we gonna do them properly in 7 minutes?
We're gonna do them. The critical
Still
one
meeting.
is 9/6 because we're nearing on a
Okay.
deadline, and we're nearing on a deadline for this. This is due 9/26, so it's due tomorrow, so we need a decision.
So which one is that, please?
It's a complaint filed 9/6,
9/6.
alleged violation date
I
9/5.
have September 5th, 2017.
Yeah, for the meeting occurring September 5th, the complaint was filed September 6th.
September, okay. Thank
I
you.
drafted a draft response to you, which is misdated. It should be, it says September 15th.
Right.
It will be saying September 26th. This is, okay, this is an alleged violation for a discussion of topics not on the agenda. And the agenda for that day dealt with a discussion of Ms. Margulies's open meeting law complaint. I believe everyone was there, but Ms. Margulies, was Ms. Margulies?
I was not there.
Oh, okay, no, right, excuse me, it was the three
Only
of you.
three of them.
Okay.
I watched the
And I
video,
was
though.
there, as counsel to discuss the
upstairs, yep.
response,
Yes.
okay? And, part of that discussion entailed, same thing, we're dealing with, how do we remedy this problem with continuous open meeting law violation complaints? And is it proper to discuss procedures as part of a method to remedy that? And I had expressed my opinion that I think if people are aware of the process, follow the process, expectations are there and met, it would further prevent or allegations of violations, because everyone knows what to expect, will speak on those topics, will speak appropriately. And as a consequence, Mr. Morgan filed a complaint alleging that those topics that we discussed were beyond the scope of what was listed in the agenda item, namely dealing with Ms. Margulies' complaint. In my estimation, that's dealing with a broader piece of how to address open meeting law complaints, including that particular complaint. So again, I say that this is a naturally flowing discussion. If you're handcuffed to say, listen, there are remedies out there, but I'm not going to talk about what those remedies would be, it's, in my opinion, not productive and not the point of open meeting law. I think discussing ways and methods to avoid open meeting law complaints when you're dealing with an open meeting law complaint is a natural component of it. So in that way, I say it's not an open meeting law violation,
Okay.
and that the board acted properly. And I think I captured what I said there.
Steve?
Yeah, so I don't disagree with what you said, except the part that you think that the discussion on the video was a natural part of the open meeting law complaint. I think if you honestly look at that video, you'll see that on numerous occasions, the conversation went far away from the complaint at purpose and into specific, statuses of things and other things that were not actually directly related to the complaint. So my observation was, as I watched the video, that clearly you went beyond the subject complaint. I agree in concept with exactly what you said, which is that, I want you to discuss corrective action. My complaint here is you're not discussing corrective action and taking corrective action. So I think it should be discussed, not this kind of what we're doing now where you're not actually discussing any corrective action, because you're continuing what I've suggested is the wrong process. I'd like to see you discussing corrective action, and in this complaint as well. So I agree with what you said. I disagree with your interpretation of what actually occurred, because I watched it, and I think, it was a very long meeting for one topic, and there was a lot of other things discussed, so.
Okay.
The council was present at that meeting,
I
so you were
was.
there live.
And on video. Yep.
Yep,
I watched
No.
the whole thing.
yep, I'm sure you did.
Okay.
The council would advise us if we were.
And she did several times in the video.
Do we have any further comment on?
I know this naturally flowing thing has been used many often from this office, that, it would be rather simple and easy to move forward with internally resolving with him and then close the topic right here, rather than just heading out this route. That's what I would recommend it, and that if the board feels otherwise, please make that decision.
John, do you have a comment?
I think we were there. I think we flowed, the conversation flowed from a conversation. It disappoints me that we've gotten to the point now where we feel like we have to have mediation, but we've lost the ability to converse. You know, it's very frustrating. There was no intent there. We were just having a conversation. We were using the expertise of counsel there.
Would you
I'll make a motion that we approve the open meeting response drafted by counsel for
Okay.
the complaint filing date of 9/6/17.
All right, and the next one?
All right.
That needs to be voted on.
We have to vote on it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Trying to hurry it up. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I abstain.
3-1.
Now, I don't know, so these ones are less pressing, so this is now the prerogative of you, Mary. The
I'm worn
next
out.
one is dated, the complaint is dated 9/19. So, the due date on that is 14
Nine.
business days, so we have
Have it.
time, I think if I'm calculating. correctly.
9/14 is there, another one.
14.
Oh, am I
Yeah.
on the I'm on the wrong one, I'm sorry. Hang on.
9/14.
Maybe we are under a deadline, hang on.
I think we are.
8, okay, so we have a complaint filing date of, which one are we dealing with?
Not to
14
interrupt
September.
counsel, but as a point of order, it is now 10 o'clock. I will make a motion that we extend the Ashland Board of Health meeting for September 26, 2017 till 10:15, as long as we have access to the doors, Mark.
I will check.
A second?
Can I see the agenda? Tonight's agenda?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Extended to 10:15.
Perfect, thank you.
They
KG,
had- are
did
we
you
in the
vote on it?
box?
No, I did not.
No.
Minutes? No, ma'am. We would be right here.
No.
I did not vote.
9/19, for your,
What is
for
it?
the
Are you
email,
voting on
9/18.
whether to?
I'm abstaining from there.
Okay, so I'm going back to this one.
Enough time.
9/14. You got that?
So I believe, I don't know what you have printed out there, KG.
This is 9/14.
Yeah,
What does it
but
mean?
that's different. So we're on right now, the complaint filed by Mr. Morgan dated 9/19 regarding an email dated 9/18.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, number 7. We have to do number 7 first.
Oh, good grief, okay.
9/14.
So sorry.
There's so many, we can't keep track.
Okay, I thought I had them in order of time.
I know.
Oh, this is the chairman.
Correct.
This is, okay, got it.
Correct.
I'm sorry. I apologize. That's my
Keep them all
fault.
straight.
Got it. Okay, so we have a complaint dated 9/14 for an alleged violation of the Board of Health meeting 9/14. Okay. So, this is the meeting where Judy Margulies was voted out of her position as chairperson.
Mhm.
And there was a complaint filed alleging that that topic was not a topic listed on the agenda. Now, and I had already touched on this when I was dealing with the other open meeting law complaint. Essentially, this is an unanticipated topic of conversation. And Mr. Morgan alleges in this particular complaint, and I'll reference another complaint he has later on, whereby he says his opinion that it was in fact anticipated because there was an email exchange from, I believe, you, Mary, and you say something, I'm not gonna quote it, but I'm paraphrasing, something along the lines of, give the position to someone else who knows what they're doing, something like that. And
That
let's
had
not
been
get-
prior to this. The day before that meeting, I can get you the email. I sent her an email trying to help her and say, instead of 21 things on the agenda, pick out 5 or 6 of the most important things that you want to deal with,
Right.
and let's deal with those first. That was the day before she had to post the agenda.
Right, and I think, but for the purposes of responding to this complaint, Mr. Morgan is alleging that that shows that it was clearly anticipated. And it's public record that this vote was attempted, I think on perhaps
Previously.
1 or 2 occasions.
Two other occasions.
Irrespective and I firmly believe this, that these votes are precipitated by the facts on the ground at any particular meeting. So.
That's Mary's statement here.
Yeah, no, okay, so, I mean, I'll quote it later. It's, whether or not I quoted it accurately is not so important. I think I got the rough idea. So, had the meeting gone very smoothly, and I was not present at this meeting, but I sat through the audio, and it was quite apparent that there was, from what I was hearing, significant frustration by the board members as to how that particular meeting was proceeding.
Right.
And so if you don't have confidence in your chairperson, in his or her ability to run a meeting, that's when these kinds of votes of no confidence occur. So it's certainly anticipated that there was frustration with this particular chairperson in the way she was running the meetings, for sure. It was clear from every prior meeting leading up to September 14th. But this vote, this action taken by the board only occurred as a result of what actually happened at that meeting. Had the minutes been approved in 5 or 10 minutes, as is more typical, maybe 20 minutes, more typical with other boards, I don't think the motion would have been made.
Right.
And so in that sense, it can't be anticipated. That kind of motion can't be anticipated. You know, you can feel you're on the verge of something all the time, but it doesn't necessarily happen. So you can't anticipate that. And that's what I wrote essentially in the letter. And I go through sort of the discussion, paraphrasing. I did not venture to quote people, and I think that doesn't need to be put in there. But I tried to paraphrase and capture the frustration of the board in that moment, prompting the decision. So.
Question.
Yes, KJ.
Who should anticipate or who should not anticipate? When you say, if it is
I can't hear you.
if it's anticipated, who is the person supposed to anticipate that question?
It's whether or not the chairman anticipates the agenda item.
So,
And I know that Judy has said that she personally herself has not anticipated it, and she anticipates it all the time. But if she anticipated it every single time, she felt threatened, for sure, but she doesn't know what's going to come to the board. And KG, it would not, you're not going to have that motion occur natural. It's just going to occur naturally. It's not going to be planned.
well, the emails indicate that others had.
No, the emails indicate frustration. They don't indicate, tomorrow night, I want on the agenda, I am going to remove you as chairperson. Ron, I'm pretty confident, and I think it was,
It was.
Ron who made the motion.
No.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it was Mary who made the motion.
Mary made the motion,
Yes,
the
it was
conversation.
prompted by Ron.
Right.
Ron was very
And if
diplomatic,
I-
saying, hey, can you admit that, this
Yeah.
is silly, and the admission
So,
was not there, yeah.
are we implying here in that statement that the chair anticipated it? Is that what we're doing? Do we have her consent to say that?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Do we have
The
Judy's
Judy Margaret's
consent?
consent saying that she anticipated it?
No,
Or
no,
we are
no.
imposing
Well, how
that
would we know?
information
She
on her?
didn't anticipate.
Didn't
that.
anticipate.
Didn't
Didn't
anticipate it.
Right, so that it wasn't on
When
the,
it-
right. I don't think anybody anticipated that.
No.
Well,
No, the question
her
is,
words, that she was surprised that Mary and I were even in attendance,
the question is,
because
we don't know whether she did anticipate or not anticipate, do we?
We did not personally ask her,
Okay,
KG,
so that's
but
the question.
I would suggest to you, and I think I would suggest
To win
to a
right way.
reasonable person,
Yes.
that although a person may feel threatened, they are not going into a meeting knowing that they're going to be voted out as chairperson. It just doesn't happen.
The board does win out.
So, do you want to give her a chance to state or not state? Because she's not here. Is this on a critical time, or could we?
This one is due, filing date, the 14th, so I have to do it by business
28th.
days.
28
No, but it's
plus-
business
28
days.
plus-
So it's
28
10
plus
business
4,
days,
32, so about 2nd
So
October or so.
So,
2nd October.
Yep.
so we're not meeting until the 3rd again, so unfortunately.
But KG, even if she did, how does that change the response? Think about it that way.
She-
Does that
I would-
change it?
That's why I asked the question.
No, that-
Who's supposed to anticipate it? If it's the chair is supposed to
Nobody
anticipate.
did.
Nobody,
No.
nobody did. Right.
If the chair is supposed to anticipate or not anticipate it, then we need to hear from that person. If,
I think based on the last responses, I am venturing to guess she'll say she anticipated it. I will venture to guess that.
So, usually, that would be due on the 28th then, right?
Yeah, it could.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
14,
6,
John.
7,
14, yeah, it's not
9,
10. Public records is 10.
11, 12, 13. So it would be due at our next meeting, so we
Yeah.
have to do it.
Yep.
So just a real comment on that. So I've read a lot of these open meeting law complaints, and I think the test here is, that you're not supposed to take up items that are not on the agenda. And so you could, AG is aware of what the rule is, and, it's not like you can just walk into the meeting and say, well, I'm a member and the chair doesn't know what I want, I'm going to put something on the agenda. That's not how it works. The rule is that you're not supposed to talk about it unless it's on the agenda. And so the language is there, but the actual meaning and the way the rulings go, there are numerous rulings about this topic, and usually what you get is a warning. It says, we recommend the best practice, or, this has repeatedly been handled by their office, and what they say, unlike what was said to her earlier, that you can never do it, it's a very simple process. If a topic comes up that's not on the agenda, you put it on the next agenda. This board could easily have decided it wanted to do something and said, we're going to put the reorganization of the Board of Health on the agenda for the next meeting, and then the public would have had an opportunity to be present. Because the whole point of this is the public needs notice. So you're never supposed to act without notice. That's the whole point. And so what you did, she did anticipate it. I'm quite certain. I saw this vote's now come up in 3 complaints. It's happened 3 times, 2 times unsuccessfully and a 3rd time successfully. So it certainly was anticipated. It's been going on as a long time. So I think you just mishandled this. I think you need to admit that you mishandled it, that you should have followed the best practice, which would have been to put it on the next agenda and have taken the vote in a proper manner. And that's what would be reasonably
So
expected as a response.
If the chair's responsible for making the agenda, how is that going to,
Right.
just think about that. How's that going to get on the agenda? So I'm asking you.
So again, the chair doesn't get to hold the agenda hostage, right? As was.
Yeah,
Yet
Yes,
she
she
does.
does.
Yet the history
Well,
was that she
well,
did.
again,
And that was part of the frustration.
That was part of the problem.
I believe there are paths around this, maybe council can explain those paths to you, but clearly, if the board wanted to take a vote to reorganize its management, that should have gone on a future agenda, so the public would have had notice. The majority of the board could have signed a piece of paper and taken it to the clerk and told her to put it on the board over there. There are a lot of ways that an agenda can get posted, and, you didn't do any of those, you just kind of ran right into it and decided you want to get rid of
This
the
was
chair. So that's my
actually-
comment,
and
and
I
I
would-
think you can handle it better.
I would like to revise my response to include the fact that it was an emergency situation because action needed to be taken that evening to
Right.
correct the complete dysfunction of the board as I listened to the meeting the meeting audio tape.
So just to comment on that, I've read lots of complaints about what's a true emergency. I have had another response from the town claiming there's an emergency before. An emergency is an actual emergency where people are, being hurt or there's a crisis. There have been other complaints that have tried to claim emergency, and it doesn't work for non-emergency. This was clearly not an emergency.
Well, I think with the number of meeting laws that were, open meeting law complaints that were filed against us, the number of minutes that hadn't been approved, that did lead to an emergency.
So-
Your potential fine is not an emergency.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is. It is. Doing things by policies and procedures and by rules and by common practice, and when you don't do that, that creates an emergency situation.
Right.
I strongly believe that. It's just my personal opinion, but
With the cases, that's not an emergency.
Well, that and the buck will get you a cup of coffee at Dunkin'
Yeah,
Donuts.
right.
Not even.
McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Deal with
Anything
that.
else, Kay?
um,
So we can take a
That's so I'll make those amendments if you're inclined to.
Absolutely. Do I have a motion to accept that,
Okay, with your
as
recommendations.
Kate had recommended?
I'll make that motion that we accept it for the
Do I have a second?
9/14/2017 slate.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I object to this because we are not taking Judith Margulies' input and we are making her the scapegoat of
I don't-
assuming it to be unanticipated or anticipated without consulting her. So
I agree with you that she should be here to have a comment on it, but it's just, it's time sensitive,
that's fine. Majority has voted.
No,
It can act
Anything-
on it.
I'm
but
just saying I agree with
I
you.
can, and express
Kate,
my
do you have
displeasure
anything
if you
else?
want.
Somebody who agrees with you.
Do you
And
have
then make
anything
sure the
else?
record shows the displeasure, that's it.
Now it comes, it's your discretion whether or not you want to, we have time
I'm
on
done.
these next two email complaints,
Yeah, I'm kinda
or,
cooked.
No,
We
can
can
we
be
put them
done.
off until the 3rd?
Third.
yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we put the remaining 2 complaints, because we have the time to do it, on our October 3rd.
About the new one,
Yeah, I've already sent an email on that.
but now for third too.
May as well.
And you'll not have any better offers next Tuesday night to join us?
I'll definitely have better offers.
Oh, come on.
Oh, but you have such fun, yeah.
Thank you.
Can I
So,
have a
you'll be-
motion
you'll be
to
in a-
adjourn?
You'll be in attendance?
So moved.
So, I'm sorry.
Can I have a
My
second on the
condolences.
motion?
Madam Chair, just one
One
point
more.
of information, 0 Tri-Street's a preliminary subdivision. I was gonna let the board know they're going on town sewer. It's on the agenda,
Yeah.
it's the only thing I thought would be. Yeah, I know it, so just so the board knows, as long as you're okay, it's going on town sewer, town water, municipal, I should say.
Shouldn't be a problem.
It's more of a Conservation Commission issue than it is ours. Obviously, as I always do at the end of every internal review, is I recommend that they have a pre-construction at the end so we can discuss any issues, might be noise, odor, or dust. So that will happen down the road, but I just want to let the board know that has been received by the planning board for the record, and it is on town water and town sewer. So unless the board has any objections, I feel these type of subdivisions lay on the table till the definitive. You will see the definitive.
Okay. Any
Thank you for the,
objections?
nope.
Okay. So I have a motion to adjourn.
I did make that motion long
And
time
I
back.
know, and a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Next meeting, October 3rd, 7
Just
o'clock.
another day at the office.